heard evidence from Emily Tinson, and she was shown a number of documents. We have forwarded to council's solicitors a list of documents that we wish to tender. There's just going to be some double checking about whether there needs to be any additional non-publication orders or applications for non-publication orders. So we can't deal with that at the moment, but hopefully we'll be able to deal with it sometime during today.
Great, thank you. And ready for Mr. Mallard?
Yes.
Mallard, come forward. Oh. We'll just have you reaffirmed since it's been a while since you were here last.
You follow me? Okay. But you shall give truth, whole truth, nothing but.
I do.
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Mallard, I'm going to turn to a new topic, and that is the sale by council of lots 101 and 102 of the Hammerville Park area to what's known as Sporties or the Moorebank Sports Club.
Yes.
Now, you had some involvement with that sale.
In the sort of the concluding end of it, yes.
And as part of your involvement, did you engage an external firm to provide a probity report about the procedure that had been followed in respect of the proposed sale?
As I said, I inherited a transaction that had been being undertaken largely, it goes back a decade, but largely been driven by Mr. Ajaka before I became a director. And we were at the pointy end of the sale contract and the report to council. Mr. Galpin, David Galpin, senior legal counsel at the council, had drawn to my attention that he felt that the draft, it was only draft at that time, unsolicited proposal policy hadn't been strictly adhered to, which came as a surprise to me, as I had inherited a process, but nonetheless, and felt there needed to be a probity report done, which the policy requires to have an independent probity officer appointed when you use that policy. I agreed with that and went to, at this point, Jason Breton was acting CEO, went to Jason and said, this report, which had already written, can't go to, I don't recommend it goes to council, and I have to authorise it at the next council meeting to do the approval of the transaction. We need to do the probity report. David's recommended it is the policy. We could get caught up on this, and Jason took it on notice, and then came back to me and agreed that we do that. And then I think either Galpin or procurement, anyway, went through the process and appointed a probity advisor. I think that delayed. They wrote a report. From memory, it was a good 2 months delay. Yeah.
As you said, this transaction had a history. What I propose to do is to take you first to the probity report, which contains within it a history of, excuse me for a minute, a history of the project, just to kind of give an indication of what had occurred and then to earmark when you became involved. Could document LCC.004.003.8394 be brought up, please? Oh, and if we can just pause before we live stream it. We can now live stream it. And would you please go to page 75? just to orientate you, Mr. Mallard, this document is part of a report that went to the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee meeting of the 19th of July 2024. That is the first page of this probity report. As you can see, review of the proposed sale of 2 lots at Hammerville Park to Moorebank Sports Club with a date of June 2024. Would you go to page 76, please? And just pausing there, this is a letter from O'Connor Marsden dated the 18th of June 2024, addressed to David Day, Head of Governance. And you can see it's got probity review report, proposed sale of land at Hammerfield Park.
Yes.
Now, if you would then go through to page 78, we've got the table of contents. And the part I want to draw your attention to first is on page 79. Now, under executive summary, the first section there, you can see O'Connor Marsden refers to their engagement provided in accordance with terms and conditions of our fee proposal dated the 28th of May 2024. So just pausing there, we've got a letter dated the 18th of June. We've got a reference to the fee proposal, which would appear to have been accepted, dated the 28th of May. So it would appear that the report has been prepared from the end of May to about the 18th of June.
Okay.
Does that accord with your recollection?
The dates seem to be right to me, yes. Yep.
Now, just to give some background, I wanted to take you to section 1.1, project background. And obviously a lot of this predates your employment at the council, but you can see as early as 2012, Sporties, that the club's referred to, has expressed a desire to purchase part of the adjoining council-owned land.
Indeed, I was there in 2012 and it was being discussed back then.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then again, just jumping through this, you can see that it's caught up also with the question of the Hammerville Park Master Plan, which again, just summarising, that appears to have been either amended or reviewed over this period of involving the proposed sale as well.
Yes.
And then if in that project background, if you can jump to 11 August and then 11 September 2019, you see that?
Yes.
You got Sporty submitting an offer to council, this time for 3 lots, 101, 102 and 103. Then in the next paragraph, a report was developed, but ultimately the offer was rejected on the basis that it did not support the council's approach for the area.
Yes, and again, that's not when I was at the council
No,
at all,
no,
but
no,
yeah,
it's giving
that
you
is the
some
background.
background.
Yes, yes. And that was 3 lots and it wound up being 2 lots.
Yes,
So,
ultimately.
yeah.
Then there's a reference to a review in 2021, which highlighted the need for aquatic centres, leading to the inclusion of swimming pools in the 100-day plan adopted on the 2nd of February 2022. Again, you weren't there at the time, but is that your understanding that a mayoral minute was presented at that
Yes.
council meeting, which proposed, I think, 2 swimming pools?
From memory, that's correct. Yes.
Now, if you then jump to the second entry dealing with June, you've got Sporty submitting an offer to council for purchases again of the 3 lots. But council informed Sporties that lot 103 was not for sale. And then we've got in August, an offer on behalf of Sporties for only lots 101 and 102 for about 6.7 million.
Mhm.
Then on the 4th of October, the same offer being made, but this time an independent valuation obtained by Sporties and traffic engineering report and another cost estimate report were provided as well.
Mhm.
And then if you go across the page, you've got the council meeting on the 25th of October 2023, where it's under the heading of dealing with the Hammerville Park Master Plan, but the CEO was authorised to explore the disposal of operational land at Hammerville Park, subject to an offer from the club. And then on the 13th of December, there was a resolution to sell the proposed lots. Then at the 7th of February 2024 council, there was a resolution to rescind the December resolution. That was not passed, but there was a resolution to defer sale of the proposed lots until extensive community consultation had been completed.
That's correct. Yep.
That was then undertaken. And then we've got a report on the 26th of June with the recommendation of approve the sale of the two lots again. And then ultimately, is it your understanding that, excuse me, at that July meeting, the council resolved to defer the matter for further due diligence and other matters set out in the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee minutes. Then in August, there was a further rescission motion for the proposed sale, seeking that the council considers the concerns raised by the AIRC. That motion failed and the motion passed to approve the sale. Then on the 28th of August, there was a further rescission motion that failed. And ultimately on the 26th of October, contracts were executed with a settlement date of the 30th of June.
Yes, well, the probity report went to ARIC, which is appropriate because it was an issue of risk. And ARIC took apart the probity report concerns, and that's where they're talking about the minutes of the ARIC meeting. We took the probity report and addressed the concerns it raised.
I'm going to stop you there because we'll get to
Okay,
a
right.
bit more detail. But my first question is, taking you through that chronology, does that roughly account with your recollection of the event?
It does. I point out the sort of the late end, the tail of this is when I got quite directly involved.
That's first question. Does that account?
Yes, it does. Sorry. Yes, it does.
Your involvement, you spoke about, you did describe it as the pointy end or the tail end.
Yes.
And a conversation with, was it David Galpin?
Yeah, I see David Days there as well, but David Galpin would be the one I mainly spoke with about. So David Galpin very clearly was who spoke to me about his concerns about the issue of the probity.
Now, given that it seems that it was the end of May that O'Connor Marsden was engaged to prepare the probity report, roughly when did you have that conversation with David Galpin? Oh, excuse me for a minute. Yeah. sorry.
He's present.
Yes.
So I'm being very careful.
Roughly when did you have the conversation with Mr. Galpin?
Again, I'd have to refer to my notes on that, but it was my recollection was a phone call conversation, and well, obviously it gave rise to the probity report. So you have to land the date in that period before that May commissioning of the letter from them outlining their fees and services, which didn't involve me. That would have been Mr. Galpin's area. So one would assume that would be conversation with April, May. Yeah, I'm just surmising from that.
Before that conversation with Mr. Galpin, did the sale of this property come within your directorate?
Yeah, so when my directorate was created, a new commercial property unit was created, but it had no staff. And I had to go through a recruitment process to recruit staff. And much of the earlier part of that transaction was, and the reports to council were in the hand of John Ajaka as CEO. He was doing that negotiation, I guess, in the absence, because property was handled in a sort of broader sense in Farooq Portelli's area before that, and there wasn't a real commercial focus in there, hence why they created a commercial team in my team. So towards that tail end, by then I'd recruited two professionals from the sector, and we started to do the work on finalising that negotiation. But Mr. Ajaka had actually concluded the negotiation, which was quite a good outcome for the council in the end. But and then I got involved with the report. I was involved in the consultation, so where you saw the, it's all a bit blurry for me actually, but where you saw the council resolution to rescind it failed, then the mayor put up an alternative resolution, which was to conduct an extensive community consultation about the sale, and then my team, community development team and property team, undertook that consultation, extensive consultation.
And that was the consultation that took place over February and March and April.
So that's the 7th of February. The note there, at the council meeting on 7th of February, council rescinded the council resolution from the 13th of December, instead resolved to defer the sale of proposed lots until extensive community consultation had been completed, which then we undertook.
There were 3 lots contemplated from time to time. So
Yeah.
do you just lots 1 and 2, what were they being used for
Car
prior
parks.
to the sale?
Free of charge community car parks.
I see. And lot 3?
I think from memory that's a car park as well. It was extracted. They were quite contiguous, but they were, in fact, we had to subdivide it in process.
And this is part of a larger public space sporting precinct, is it?
Yes, sporting precinct, that's right. The master plan, which was referred to here, is to develop a hub of sport, childcare, library, that type of thing. It's a big sort of vision for the precinct.
And the club had some land adjacent to this facility?
In the centre of it, in fact,
see.
and that's historical, way before our times. The club, a community club, somehow got some land there right on the sporting field, but it was totally landlocked, surrounded by our council land, and
Surrounded by sporting fields and the like?
sporting fields and car parks,
Yes.
council owned, and they had a desire to expand their footprint because they didn't have function rooms or anything at that capacity, and had land holdings in other local government areas, so they're quite clear they might just pull out of there and go somewhere else. So there was sort of community benefit that we could see, and working through the complex issues of the land ownership and the use of the land to conclude this transaction.
Thank you.
And the consultation came back very positive. As long as we hypothecated the sale revenue to the master plan, that was the community consultation.
Sorry, what was that last part?
The revenue for the sale of the two, there's a couple of things that came back from the community consultation. One is that the parking had to be retained, free of charge in perpetuity, and that the sale revenue would be hypothecated or applied to the master plan for the precinct. The community didn't want the money disappearing into another.
Put back into the very facility from...
Yeah, that's right, yes.
Would you bring up document LCC-014 6.002.1518. Now, this was a confidential report which was provided to the council for the 13th of December 2023 meeting. And that can be live streamed. Now, from the first part of the report, you approve the report.
Yes.
So it's been generated by Mr. Simmet within the directorate.
Yes.
And would you go to page 5, please?
As usual, I was jumping ahead.
That's a good refresher for me too.
It's described at the beginning of that, the Moorebank Sports Club has been seeking opportunities to maintain community relevance and has represented its vulnerability and its landlocked position in the precinct. Now, it's not the best photo. That's better. So the green section is lot 101.3 that wasn't sold is blue.
That's correct.
And then next to the boundaries of 101 and 102, there appears to be a building. Is that the sports club?
That's correct.
Right. And you can't really see, but well, you can see there's at least one oval.
Yes.
And there's other green space to the right of the photo and also above it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And you can see that the club is totally landlocked there from that diagram. That the main road there is the only road frontage on the red block of land, 102.
You may not know this, but did the club have some kind of easements or something like that over either 102 or?
I don't know the answer to that. We created easements in the sale process so that we had right of way over it to get to the sporting fields and so forth. But I'm not sure what the rights the club had to access. No, I don't know the answer to that.
Now, you spoke about, I think at this point of time, a draft unsolicited proposal.
Policy, yes.
Policy.
Yes.
And to your knowledge, was it built from an ICAC publication?
Guidelines, yes.
Guidelines. And when you had employed your commercial property people and they were then looking at this proposal or the offers that were being made, to your knowledge, had they turned their mind to the draft unsolicited proposal policy?
No, the answer is no, we hadn't. It had basically been sitting, not put on exhibition, hadn't been processed through the system. So I wasn't highly aware of this policy, acknowledge that, until Mr. Galpin brought it to my attention. I know Julie Scott had raised it with me as well. And so it felt, we were like, and also I wasn't 100% certain until Mr. Galpin spoke to me, I wasn't 100% certain that it applied to this because the council, for 10 years, the council had been doing this negotiation on and off. And the council seemed as eager to do something transactionally with the club as much as the club was with us. So I wasn't quite, in my head, clear that this was an unsolicited proposal. Today, I acknowledge it was.
Mm-hmm.
But once it was brought to my attention, the shortcomings, then I straight away said, let's get the probity report done.
And you've already mentioned this in your evidence, but one of the problems with engaging the probity company in about May of last year was that by that time there had been a lot of negotiations and a lot of the matters that either the ICAC document or your unsolicited proposal policy required just hadn't been undertaken.
Yeah, so the highlight of the shortcomings in the report, and you know, it was an education curve for myself, and subsequently when I was still there, we were applying that policy to other unsolicited proposals much more vigorously. But nonetheless, it was an important document for us to, and the club was very upset that we had to go through. We just done a community consultation and then we did this report and had to go back to square one on a number of the matters. Yeah, I think it delayed the whole process for quite a few months.
Would you bring up LCC.004.003.8394 again? And if you would go to page 81, please. This is the summary of the O'Connor-Marsden probity report. It sets out, first dot point, though there's been documentation of most recent discussions and negotiations, they say further documentation could be included in the council report for 26th June meeting, setting out a number of dot points, confirmation that individuals involved in the process did not have interests of associations which could rise to conflict, justification for the decision to proceed with a non-competed direct negotiations sale consistent with the ICAC guidance material, detailed evaluation of the proposal against identified criteria, such as those in the council's draft unsolicited proposal process guide. Then there's a lack of documentation in respect of the initial discussions and negotiations. Then there doesn't seem to be any formal approval of the decision to enter into discussions and negotiations on or around the time of the council entering into the memorandum of understanding. First formal approval appears to be the council resolution from the meeting of the 25th of October 2023, which was after the most recent offer from Sporties. So the guidelines and the ICAC document, it usually applies as, it doesn't usually, it applies as soon as there's some kind of unsolicited proposal made. And it involves matters such as determining whether this should be pursued or whether, you know, direct negotiations with the entity or whether some other market-driven or market involvement. Yes. And none of that had been done?
No, that early work in the first steps of the assisted proposal policy hadn't been applied, though.
They raise lack of documentation really until the latter part of the negotiation.
Yes.
When you were reviewing documents, did that accord with your observation?
Well, there weren't many documents in terms of the ones lacking that they refer to. There weren't those documents to review. I mean, the CEO, Mr. Jarkin, had been doing the negotiations directly, and I think from memory, the way we were able to address that to the satisfaction of the probity auditors was that Mr. Jarkin would nearly always dictate an email to Sporties, copying in perhaps our lawyers, I don't know, or property people or another director, not me because I wasn't a director at that time, stating what the situation was and negotiations were. So we were able to sort of piece together the discussions.
But they weren't contemporaneous? No,
there was no contemporaneous diary notes kept of those meetings. That was the shortcoming.
They also identified lack of declarations of no conflict of interest.
That's correct.
By various parties involved. That was one of the matters that was attempted to be rectified retrospectively?
That's correct. And in fact, it included me because I was involved in that last part of it. And we applied that, and there were no conflicts of interest.
Did you include in declarations of no conflict of interest the councillors and the mayor?
I can't answer that question. I only dealt with the commercial, my directorate side of it. So I can't answer that question.
Once this report was received, as we'll see in a minute, it was provided to the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. And of course, their minutes eventually go to a council meeting. But any of the concerns raised in the probity report about the proceedings up until, let's say, May 2024, who then took over whether their concerns could be retrospectively dealt with?
ARIC's concerns or the probity advisors'
Start with
concerns?
the probity concerns.
I think, again, I'm not certain what the process was that we used, but I think it would have involved Mr. Galpin and myself putting together the material that was and Steve Simat, I think Steve was quite involved in that, to address those concerns.
And as part of that, did you raise with council conflict of interests that may have arisen or declarations by councillors or the mayor that they had no conflict of interest?
I don't recall doing that. And as I said a minute ago, it was really focused on the professional staff involved in the negotiations, or frankly, anyone touched the transaction.
Mr. Mallard, I've just been passed a note from those down the line taking the transcript. If you wouldn't mind just speaking a little slowly this morning.
Oh, okay.
It's not your volume today. It's just the pace. That's all right. I can't count how many times I've been asked to do the same. So there's no criticism. Just
That's okay.
go a little bit slowly. That'd be wonderful. Thank you. Get you some more.
We have a jug here today.
Oh, excellent. We're prepared.
Could we go back to page 70 of this document? So was the procedure, Mr. Mallard, the independent probity group were engaged, they provided the report. I've taken you to the executive summary of the report.
Yes.
You were then provided with the report, and then using that as a basis, this report to the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee was then written.
Yes. So, I'm not sure how that came about, but it's appropriate to send that sort of report, critical of the process that we had engaged, to Audit and Risk, to bring it to their attention. And George Hampuris there, he didn't report to me. He was reported to Michelle in Audit and Risk, yes, he would have prepared this report based on our report.
And you just have a look at the summary overview there. In the second paragraph, it said, in response to the probity matters identified through the report, council has actioned all possible due diligence activities with regards to the potential sale. All other opportunities which could not be applied retrospectively will be treated as future focused, with a view to implement these as part of continuous improvement of council's processes. Now, can I just pause there? The actioning of all possible due diligence activities, you're referring to due diligence matters that haven't been undertaken but still could be undertaken.
Yes, a conflict of interest forms. Yeah.
But then you identified that there have been some that could not be applied retrospectively. Do you recall what they were?
Oh, clearly the minutes of direct negotiation meetings, that they weren't taken. That's particularly one of the areas that we had to deal with. Other areas like applying the requirement to have a resolution to start negotiations was that wasn't clear that needed to be done, but under the guidelines it does. So that can't be retrospectively done. And the issue of the applying the decision, applying the proposal to the council's strategy, the community strategic plan, the Hammondville master plan, that hadn't been done. Retrospectively, we could do that, and that ticked the boxes, and we did that community consultation as well. Yeah, and then to talk about continuous improvement, the council hadn't advanced the draft unsolicited proposal policy. Had been sitting draft for some time, and as a result of this, we put it through the council, put it on exhibition, and applied the learnings to future unsolicited proposals, and councils get a lot of those. And I think, I could be corrected, but I'm told we're one of the few councils that actually has a formal policy. They now, one of the few.
When was the draft unsolicited proposal policy devised or drafted?
Before my time.
So before when you started in 2023?
That's correct.
In that answer, the earlier answer, you mentioned that one of the things that could be addressed retrospectively was applying the proposal to the strategic plan.
Yes.
Could you just explain to me what you meant by that?
Well, the Hammondville master plan was adopted by council, which included, will be corrected here, but I think it included the disposal of those two car parks. Subsequent amendment included that, had already been identified, and the master plan for the sporting precinct, which included the role for sporties and other community facilities going into there. But then you look at a broader community strategic plan, which the council has to adopt at the beginning of each term, and that talked about hubs and sporting facilities and increased sporting facilities for the community. So that it aligned with that strategy.
So what work was needed? What work was needed to align this sale process
but just
to those plans?
So, it would have been in one of my teams, just retrospectively sit down at the proposal and say, yeah, ticks these boxes. It should have been done at the beginning of the process, not after it was nearly concluded.
I understand. So
if it had been not identified, then we would have had to have done some.
So to make sure that what was being done
Yes.
matched the plans that had been adopted by council, or were at least consistent with them.
Aligned with the strategies, yes.
And when you spoke about the Hammersville master plan, was that the revised master plan that was approved by the council towards the end of 2023?
That would be the one, yes.
And your recollection is it included in it the disposal of the two lots?
I believe so, but I'm not 100% certain. Yeah. And again, I inherited as a director that master plan work. A fellow called Mark Taylor was working on that, the community consultation process that you undertake to do those master plans.
Now, right down the bottom of this page, you've got below us a summary of key issues or themes and commentary that have been prepared with respect to the risks that the council should consider when forming a view on the potential sale. We go to the next page. So this is a table that either you prepared or those who report to you prepared.
It may well have been George, but yes. I'd say it was George and Steve Simmett and George Pacouris.
And you can see under issue 1, it's got seeking authority. And in the left-hand column sets out some of the criticisms from the probity report about what has occurred. Is that fair to say?
Yes, yes.
and for example, there was no protocol established for negotiations which excluded the CEO from negotiations that the CEO had authorised and prior to October 23 and precluded lobbying of councillors, which occurred when Sporties wrote to councillors in 2019, 2023.
That's correct.
And then on the right-hand side is the impact, and then it sets out things that the council then should turn their mind to as to whether they need further information to consider whether those particular risks or concerns have been resolved. And you can see there, it starts off with council should consider whether it's satisfied there was and remains justification for direct negotiations. Proposal represents best value for residents and ratepayers. Best value assessment has not distorted council's assessment of whether Sporty's proposal represents best value for residents and ratepayers. And then a question about actionable apprehended bias because of the lobbying of councillors. At a minimum, mayor and councillors must consider the extent of any lobbying and the requirements of the Code of Conduct recording conflicts of interest. Now, this was the report that you submitted to the Audit Risk Improvement Committee meeting. And just I'll bring up the minutes of the committee meeting of the 19th of July. Would you bring up LCC.014.002.1443? Yes, please. So you can see this is the first page of the minutes. If we look at attendees, you're about, I think it's 8 down.
Yes.
And would you then go to page 6? Right down the bottom of the page 8.3. We've got probity over sale of land, Hammerville Park. It refers to management presenting on the outcomes of the probity report. The committee commended management for undertaking a probity report this late in the process. Then across the page to page 7, you've got the committee strongly cautioned council on proceeding with the sale in light of the process failings identified in the probity report. Committee made it clear that its recommendation is not because it has concerns around the lawfulness of the sale, but more because it's difficult to ascertain how council has satisfied themselves of the need to sell the land, how it aligns to an overarching asset utilisation, asset disposal strategy, including how council responds to the challenge of proceeding with a decision based only on one valuation. Then in the next paragraph, they acknowledge the risk that Sporties may withdraw their interest in the sale. And they're also identified reputation risk to proceed is also high. And then right down the bottom, the committee resolved to record its concerns with the process deficiencies identified with the probity report implications of proceeding with a decision to sell the land without further confirmation that the sale of the land is in the council's best long-term interest strategically, further due diligence, including the obtaining of an additional valuation, and the council have regard to the concerns, perceptions that may be generated by failings that have been identified in the probity report. Those resolutions, those minutes eventually go to the council at a council meeting?
Yes, they do. AREC is advisory. We should note that it's not binding on the council. It's an advisory body. And as you can see here, it's quite conservative. And those issues they raise, I believe we addressed those in the report to council. We did get a second, and maybe I think we got a third valuation for the property.
For the extraordinary council meeting of the 13th of August 2024, was another confidential report provided to council on this sale?
I don't recall.
All right. Could you bring up document LCC? Sorry, before I take you to that.
I mean, all reports on this sale are always confidential. So if there's a report, it's confidential, yes.
Excuse me. Sorry, if you can just excuse me. I think I've written down the wrong. I'll bring up the confidential report for the extraordinary meeting of the 13th of August. That was LCC.014.002.0490. Yes, that's fine. Excuse me. So this is the confidential report that went to the extraordinary meeting. And in it, if you jump to page 5, there's a reference to the council meeting of the 25th of July, where it was resolved to defer the matter to allow for further financial due diligence,
Yes.
to demonstrate strategic alignment and closer alignment to direct negotiation guidelines, and to receive a report back outlining policy procedure improvements for direct negotiations for future scenarios. Then if we move down towards the bottom of this page, we've got further financial due diligence, and there's a reference to a second independent valuation was commissioned as per the ARIC's recommendations. So that was undertaken. Then over the next 2 pages, there appears to be, in a way, that retrospective analysis of a direct negotiation and other aspects of due diligence that should have been undertaken at the beginning of the whole process.
Yes, and it's retrospectively applied.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Then if we go to page 7, right down the bottom, B, to demonstrate strategic alignment. This links with the question that the Commissioner asked you about looking at the master plan and other, or at least the master plan, about whether the sale is consistent or aligns with it.
Mm-hmm.
You can see at a high level, the master plan proposes construction of a new aquatic and leisure centre, provision for additional council services, installation of soccer fields, upgrades to sports club. There doesn't seem to be any reference in the master plan to selling the lots.
I think, look, from memory, and I refresh myself with the documents, I'm almost certain there is a reference in the master plan to selling the lots, because the reason I say that is the councillors, when I was in my last few months there, wanted to unlock that money from being dedicated to the master plan, right? The sale revenue. And to do that, we would have to go and put on exhibition an amendment to the master plan. And that process was starting, because that's in my area, was in my area as well, when I departed. So the master plan must have had a reference to the sale, maybe not to sporties, but the sale of the land, and the land being dedicated to the master plan, because it's what's called an internal restriction. So it was internally restricted. And to change that, I got advice from our, I think I got legal advice, but also from our community planning team, that we needed to amend the master plan yet again.
Just before you leave that topic, if we can go to page 3 of this document, under recommendation, point 3, create an internally restricted reserve titled the Hammerville Pool and Precinct Reserve for the proceeds of the sale.
That's correct.
So that's what you were referring to.
Internally restricted.
And before you left your employment with the council, there were an interest or proposals that the funds should be released from being internally restricted.
I think that was a resolution of council to unrestrict the funds. I think that's taken in the context of the budget situation we had, where the amount of unrestricted funds was quite dangerously low. But when I took that back to my team, we can't just unrestrict it. We have to amend the master plan to do that because we told the community in the master plan that the revenue would go into the precinct.
Do you know how that resolved?
The answer is no. To avoid the confusion, because you can see I'm confused with all these different processes, to avoid the confusion for the community of advertising an amendment again to the master plan, the sale hadn't yet gone through. I think it was only concluded end of the financial year. I had got the staff to prepare for it because I had to bring in a consultant to do it. And once the sale was completed, we were then going to do the amendment to the master plan process. We didn't want to have the sale causing confusion about the master plan amendment. So the bottom line is I don't know the answer to your question, but I expect that they're probably doing it now.
Now,
there was a council resolution to do that, so it has to be done.
and the council resolution was when you were still there?
Yes.
Now, I think as I outlined earlier, the result of the provision of this confidential report is that at the 2 meetings held in August by the council, the resolution to proceed with the sale was passed.
Yes.
And any resolution to either defer it or not to approve the sale waiting to deal with the concerns raised by the ARC failed.
They were addressed.
Well, no,
oh, you
I'm
mean
just
like,
talking about the resolutions. Resolutions were put forward, and I'm just putting it generally, to either defer the sale or not to proceed with the sale until the council considers the concerns raised by the AIRC and that those rescission motions fail. Not asking whether they were right or correct or what, it's just...
the timeline is confusing, so I'm sorry that I'm sounding confused. Normally it's clear with me these things, and I would have read all these through again one more time. Council deferred the sale to do the community consultation. That was, and that was a deferment. Deferred
in July for further due diligence.
Yes, and that was to apply the probity advisor's report and ARIC concerns, and they were addressed in the confidential report. So as I'm aware that those issues were addressed in resolutions and reports, and then we went to the sale, the final approval of the sale.
So you don't have a recollection that on the 13th of August meeting and the 28th of August, there were further rescission motions about the sale?
I think may well have been. One or two councillors were quite stridently opposed.
But you don't recall that?
I accept that you've got the evidence there that may have been the case. So I know that you know, it's an incredibly complex process, and just to get through that, and I talk about the outcomes for the community, which I stand behind in terms of the outcomes of that sale.
Now, could we go to page 5 of that report, please? Point 2, and this was the resolution at the 25th of July, receive a report back outlining a policy procedure improvement for direct negotiations for future scenarios.
Well, the response to that would have been the draft unsolicited proposal policy, which had been sitting pending going to council, would have gone up to council, and it went on exhibition.
Well, no, that it refers to receiving a report outlining a policy procedure improvement for direct negotiations. The draft policy was already in place, wasn't it?
It hadn't been put to council. The draft policy could be corrected, but I don't believe they've been put to council, and it went to council and went on exhibition. So I'd have thought that would have addressed point 2. Recognising the policy didn't come out of my area. That came out of governance and legal. But nonetheless, as a result of this, I think my memory is that we put the policy out, and now it's formal council policy.
If you go to the bottom of page 10 of this document, you can see section 2, receive a report back outlining a policy procedure improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And if we go to the next page at the top, and they refer to the probity report, considered council's dealings by reference to the ICAC guidelines.
Yes.
And then they say, in response to probity matters identified in the report, they've actioned all possible due diligence activities with regards to the potential sale. Well, this is a quote from something I took from the report I took you to. If we then go to there are opportunities identified to better comply with the ICAC recommendations, and a further report will be tabled to council in the future outlining better practices and policy recommendations. Do you know if that further report was ever tabled?
I don't recall, but I'll go back to my previous answer. The draft unsolicited proposal policy addresses those concerns. Yeah. So if that went through council, that would therefore.
But this is talking about a further report tabled to council in the future outlining best practices and policy recommendations for council's consideration. That would suggest something different from an already existing unsolicited proposal policy, which seems to have arisen from observations made in the probity report.
Again, the unsolicited proposal policy, as a result of this, the probity report here and the lessons we learnt in the process of this sale, was put through council, put on public exhibition, and
Sorry, what was?
the unsolicited proposal policy, which was draft, was then put on public exhibition.
Yes.
And came off public exhibition, and my understanding is it's now a formal policy of council, and that addresses. I'm not sure what the report cover would have said in terms of, because I didn't write that report, but nonetheless, the unsolicited proposal policy addresses issues here about best practices and policy recommendations for council's future dealings, direct dealings.
It wasn't your area?
No. Unsolicited proposal was it was with Mr. Galpin's area. It might have been Mr. Day who had it, who was governance, but it was not in my area. No. My area, I might say, my area touched had a role in it in terms of when an unsolicited proposal came through. Strangely, it identified the manager of economic development, happens to be Julie, in that role, but that position as the first person to do a preliminary assessment of an unsolicited proposal, sort of a gateway process.
So your view is that the further report being tabled to the council was all caught up with bringing to council, being publicly exhibited, and then bringing to council the draft unsolicited proposal policy.
But normally the other way around, go to council, then go on exhibition.
But that's your understanding.
That would be my take of what the process was, but certainly I wasn't involved in drafting any report as issues there. But.
Would you bring up document LCC.014.002.0023? Yes, thank you. Now, this is a memo from Jason Breton to Steve Samat, 20th of June. And if we follow down, it refers to the 13th of August meeting where certain resolutions were made, approving the sale of 102 and lots 101 and 102, authorising CEO to complete all documentation, creating the internally restricted reserve, etc. Then it's got on 26 October, the contracts were executed in exchange for a sale of 8 million. But settlement was on or before the 30th of June, while the variations to the Section 88B instrument are being registered. So your understanding that was caught up with the easements that had to be?
Yes, subdivision and easements on the site, and it would touch on the deed or the condition in the sale that approximately 280 parking spaces will be dedicated to whatever they did on that site development going forward in perpetuity to the community.
And just from this memo, it appears that there were further negotiations dealing with things like the easement variation, etc.
Yes.
But ultimately, it would appear that it's been resolved.
Yes.
And before you left your employment with the council, was it your understanding that settlement had occurred?
No, but I understand it occurred before the end of the financial year. But I mean, that's just hearsay. Yeah.
And of course,
Actually, no, that's not correct. Sporties actually announced it on social media, and I sent them a message of congratulations, and I was no longer an employee of the council, but they had concluded the sale on June 30 or something like that. So it's in the public arena.
excuse me.
There you go.
Could we jump back to the report that you authorised to the ARIC meeting of the 19th of July 2024, LCC.004.003.8394, and it's page 70. Can I take you back to the summary overview in the second paragraph? I took you to the beginning of that paragraph, which distinguished between due diligence activities that still could be implemented in a sense retrospectively. And then the next sentence that says all other opportunities which could not be applied retrospectively will be treated as future focused with a view to implement these as part of continuous improvement of council's processes. It then says these actions will be tracked through council's audit system to ensure they are monitored through to their completion. The reference to the council's audit system, what's that referring to?
Oh, again, this is I authorise this, but George Hampouris has suggests probably written this, and there's an audit and a risk matrix, that is a constant focus of the directors, identifying risks and remedies or abilities to address them to reduce those risks to the organisation. So that would be the reference to that. So something, an unsolicited proposal, I've been involved in a couple since then, or particularly one since then. The risk matrix is applied to it straight away in terms of that's part of the unsolicited proposal policy. You have to do that and report it to ARIC as well. And George, I'd have George involved in that process. Who's an expert in that space, and that goes up to ELT and to ARIC.
Commissioner, I was going to turn to another topic. Is that an appropriate
Yes.
time?
Mr. Mallard, we'll take a mid-morning break for 20 minutes. So we'll start again at 10 to 12.
Okay.
Would mind being back here just a couple of minutes before that? I'd be most grateful. I'll adjourn till 10 to 12.
Mr. Mallard, different topic. Would you bring up, please, LCC.002.010.2298, and it can be live streamed. Now, this is the establishment structure of the council as at January 2025. Your directorate is the far left, Director of City Futures.
Correct.
And underneath you, you've got your commercial development. Were they your commercial property people that you've been speaking about?
Yes, they are. Yes.
You've got city economy, city strategy and performance. Can I just ask you, what did city economy look after?
They looked after ranging from the relationship with small businesses. Practical sense, we have a fellow that would go and meet new small businesses, shop owners, that type of thing. Do workshops, provide information to them about council services, through to the major investors in the city. Would that be the contact point to talk to the council about, if there may be a big warehouse developer or something like that, employers. And then it evolved that the university sector sat with Julie Scott in that area, and that's a major driver of our city, with the universities moving into Liverpool. Education sector, the Liverpool Innovation Precinct, we're a member of that, which is centred around the health, hospital, Ingham Institute. That all came through city economy. What else? We had the grants team there, which is a big area of revenue for the council, grants from state and sometimes federal government.
So including the West Invest grants?
No, that was done, well, that was before my time. That was back when I was still in government. Those grants were applied for and achieved. I do recall that Julie and her team had a bit of a say in that process. But after that, they were hands off. A new team was set up under operations to do the West Invest, or whatever it's called now, WESIG processes. But council relies on grants to do a lot of things. Extra employees, apprentices, we're getting grants for that at the moment, always applying. And they're quite rigorous application processes to get the grants. It's not just a matter of ticking a few boxes.
Then West City Strategy and Performance, what did they do?
Well, they came across later in the piece as I was recruited from Farooq's area. So they do the compliance reporting, which is like your annual report, your biannual report. They just completed, and now it's adopted by council, this community strategic plan, CSP, which every council has to do within 12 months of its election. That's a massive project. I'm going to see the manager in my head reminding me what the areas were, but all those important reporting documents that the state government requires, the department requires, the public, of course, requires, they're all prepared by that team, and it involves a lot of consultation internally, and then consultation with the community. The Central Community Strategic Plan the operational plan, the delivery plan, all those things are compiled and drafted up through that team. Then I gave them projects to do as well, like the Liverpool 2050 strategy, which was a council resolution, which I talked about, I think the other day. That I left that was unfinished work, but that project they were doing as well.
Then the final group is titled Communications, Marketing and Brand.
Yes.
At this stage, there were 13 positions. Communications at one level or in one area, they deal with communications via social media about developments within the council. Yeah, I mean, that's quite a broad team. And yeah, the sort of the popular perception would be, media relations and social media, but the team there's also a very good team of graphic designers. So every document that I just talked about, the previous team published all the documents. All that graphic design work is pulled together by the graphic designers and the communications team. Every brochure, every ad we put on websites, everything we do graphically, some of the reports you've seen, the logo, all that comes through from the communications team. Then I've got a videographer in there, and that compiles all the videos of the events we do and edits them up and turns them into material for our website or for our social media. Now, I want to ask you some questions about around September 2024, or it could have been October 2024, after the declaration of the polls resulting from the council election.
Yes.
At that point, the structure that I've just taken you to was roughly in place. So communications referred to you.
Yes, that's right. And I pointed out the other day in my evidence that I shared a department with the operations, which is over the operations side, which was the community and city planning team. We were doing a pilot of a sharing those two teams. I did more of the strategy, and the operations director did more of the implementation of that strategy.
Just concentrating on the communications, at that point, when there was an event that involved, I'll put it broadly, the council, how was it determined whether anybody from your communications team would attend to record it in any way?
The communications team would have a weekly meeting, a work in progress meeting.
With you?
No, I join in sometimes, but the team would get together and go through, I think at this stage, mainly on Tuesdays, go through the week ahead, even the month ahead, what we need to be doing, what the strategies, what the communication things, what do we need to do, like statutory requirements, like legally, and also what events are going on, what festival, what religious events are going on, and in terms of that declaration of the poll, that's a public event that you would cover. You'd send someone along to.
Okay, hold on. I think you jumped ahead. So around September, October, you'd had the elections, and then you have the formal declaration of the poll.
Yes.
And that particular event, it was usual that you will send somebody from your communications team.
I would suggest every council does. I mean, that's a very important event. That's all the candidates for council are invited. So not just the ones that are elected.
Stop you. Where is it held?
Well, this is unusual. The Liverpool Council use a private contractor to do their election, along with, I think, Fairfield Cabramatta Council. And it was actually coincidentally, we had supplied them with a building next to Liverpool Civic Place, a redundant building, to conduct their head office for the election campaign. I think that was a sort of cost saving in terms of the contract, and but very arm's length from us. And I think that's where it was held. And
I must admit, my experience of these have usually been from English television.
Great.
Is that what occurs?
Having been subject to them myself, they are. It's not like the English one with the Lenny Crazy Party.
I was gonna say, is there a novelty?
It could possibly be. But and I wasn't an attendance at this one, but it would normally be they would declare they put up on a screen the count and the breakdown of the preferences.
Each ward?
There's only 2 wards in Liverpool, so that would be the case, and the popularly elected mayor, because the mayor is popularly elected. And normally I don't know if this happened on this day, but normally they put up a screen and you'd see the counts and the people eliminated, so that the people not normally happening live at that point, so that people can see when they got knocked out because they didn't have enough votes, and then you get to the final elected members with quotas. And the final couple only getting, say, a quarter of a quota, but the others are less. So, and you'll see who's elected. So it's quite common to cover that. I've got to say, usually the major parties are well aware of the result because of their scrutinies and the polling booths before that time. So it's this particular one.
So when you have the declaration of the polls, members of the public are invited or able to come?
I think so.
And I think you've given evidence that anybody who stood for election is able to come.
Yes. They normally bring along some supporters.
And then because it's an important event in the life of the council, somebody from your communications area is dispatched.
Yes.
And is the idea that they take photographs?
Yes. So from memory, this was on a Saturday, and they would take photographs for our social media, and I would expect that our communications league would have written a media release, non-partisan, just saying these are the results and congratulating all the candidates, which then would have fed into the social media post. There's a lot of interest in the community, particularly about the popular elected mayor position. It's a lot of focus.
Now, who from communications was sent?
There may have been 2, but certainly a new employee that just joined the council was sent along, a videographer. Photographer and videographer.
To take photos?
And do a video. Oh, he does video as well, yes. He's very talented. But he'd been with us for like literally 2 weeks.
And your understanding is this person attended, took photos and videos, or a video that was then downloaded onto the council website?
Yes, so he took photos. Step back about who attended in terms of the councillors.
Well, hold on,
Okay.
step by step.
Okay. Well, he took photos of the successful candidates that attended. Not all the candidates attended, and subsequently did a video that fed into.
All right. So he took those, and were they downloaded onto the council?
Not by him. They were fed to a coordinator, and then approved to go up onto our social media.
Now, you didn't attend this declaration of the poll, but what is your understanding of the successful candidates who attended?
I think all the Liberal candidates, or maybe nearly all the Liberal candidates, attended, and certainly the mayor and Councillor Hull, the deputy mayor. Well, he wasn't deputy mayor then, but Councillor Hull, independent.
And is it your understanding that none of the candidates associated with the Labor Party attended?
That's my understanding.
And is it your understanding that other than Councillor Hull, none of any other candidates successful candidates associated as the independent attended?
It's only Councillor Asiskia. My understanding is that they weren't there, but there's certainly no evidence of it in the photographs, though.
All right. So photos and videos were taken. You said that they were sent to a coordinator for approval. Who was the coordinator?
Lance Northley.
Lance.
Northley, Northley.
And it's within his responsibility to approve the download?
Yes, and whether or not he does it physically, the upload of the video, or whether it's done by the other person, but yeah.
So photos and video were uploaded. Did you receive any communication within the council about what was uploaded to the website?
I I hadn't seen the upload, the content of it, but I think on the Monday morning I received a very angry message from the acting CEO, I think at the time, about the video content, and that I'm not sure if this was a phone call or if this was an email initially, and that the Councillor Betty Green, Dr. Betty Green, who had been the Labor candidate for popular-elected mayor against Ned Manoon, being that Ned Manoon was successful, had lodged a very strong complaint about not the photos, but the video that had been uploaded.
And of course, Councillor Betty Green also stood as a councillor as well.
That's correct.
And
Yes.
she was successful.
That's right. She said, yes.
Were you forwarded the complaint by
No, I don't.
Councillor Green?
I don't think I was forwarded the complaint. It was just brought to my attention. It was her, and she was upset. The video.
And sorry, just
Yeah.
pausing there. So you get, you can't recall it, some communication from the acting CEO, so that was Mr. Breton.
Yes.
Either it was a phone call or an email raising that Councillor Green had lodged a complaint about the video. Did you look at the video then?
I think I looked at it briefly. I mean, I think likely.
Stop you there. What did the video depict?
I'm just saying, likely Mr. Breton's communication with me was by email. I'd suggest not a phone call, but the video depicted the mayor with an excited mayor with his Liberal councillors thanking the community and spruiking his agenda for the next term. And yes, and that was the complaint. It looked like it was a biased. The comms team had put up something biased, just betraying the Liberal team.
Was Councillor, when you watched it, was Councillor Harl in the video?
No. And subsequently, when I did some investigation, he declined to participate.
In the video?
That's right.
Right, so you received, you described it as an angry message from the acting CEO.
Yeah.
Why did you say it was, why do you describe it as angry?
Oh, it's just usually brevity and, what's going on, who's done this. I've got a serious complaint from Councillor Green. And like, this is the first time I was aware of this. So I said, let me get into it straight away, gather the evidence of what's happened, and started that process. I mean, this is sort of, this is people driving to work time. So I was trying to track down people, Lance, the manager at the time, Mimi, trying to find out what had happened,
Who was the second person you referred to?
Mimi, I can't think of her surname now. She was the manager of communications at that time.
It's not Mimi Curran.
Yes, Mimi Curran, correct.
So you receive the angry message, you start investigating.
I said to him, I'll get all the information together.
And you start speaking to people.
And putting the pieces together. Obviously, it was taken down.
And what do you then, is the next step, excuse me, in your communication with the acting CEO, do you contact him?
Yeah, by email, yes.
And what did you say in the email?
I think there were a couple of emails. I think I'm trying to contact people, or you may have said Mimi and Lance, or at that stage, I wasn't aware Lance was involved, perhaps, because it's very important to get the facts together quickly. Otherwise, you've got the remedy. How did it happen? And did it comply with policy? That will come later. And Mimi's phone was off. I couldn't contact her. She was driving in from the Southern Highlands to find out, because I normally go through the manager to get to the thing. So then I started pulling pieces together to try and see what had happened. And so I was feeding to Jason updates as much as I could without going.
So updates on.
I can't get hold of Mimi. I'm trying to find out what happened there.
Yep.
I knew there'd be a backstory, and I found out there was a backstory. So I was just trying to pull it all together, and that would be in a period of over 30, 60 minutes, a couple of emails. Because by then I'd found out that the new junior staff member had been there and done that filming. At that point, I didn't know that Councillor Hull had declined to be in the video, but he was in the photographs, which were fine. And then, okay, who approved it to go up? You know, it's not something I would normally be approving. I changed that after this happened, though, trying to get to the bottom of it.
All right. Does it get to the stage where you've conducted enough of an investigation so you can report back to the acting CEO?
I wasn't yet at that point. I don't think I was aware at that point that Hull had declined to be in the video, and subsequently later that day, when people applied what had happened to the policy, the media policy at that time, they didn't break the policy.
Just focus on my
Yeah, right.
questions.
Yep.
So you're still investigating. You've still got work to do with your investigation. Do you receive any further communication from the acting CEO?
Oh, yeah. So I'm not sure what provoked it. Perhaps I'll say I need more time to, getting hold of Mimi, try to work out what happened. And he emailed me back something along the lines of this doesn't cut the mustard or something like that. I'm taking over communications from effective immediately. And I think he copied a couple of people on that. And of course, Lauren sees all my emails as well and is aware of that.
All right. Do you
Like
remember?
EA.
Okay, hold on. So something along the lines of not cut mustard.
Doesn't cut the mustard. I think that's what he said. I could probably find the emails because I got some legal advice about it.
I'm taking over communications.
Yeah. Effective immediately.
Do you recall who the email was copied into,
No, I don't. I have to see the email.
other than Ms.
I had a
Mallard?
feeling, I thought it was ELT members, but I'm not certain. And I was pretty upset.
I want to ask you some questions about your reaction to this. Just before I raise another matter, I know it was an email, and an email is in black and white and is in writing, but was it written or drafted in any way that you formed a particular view of the tone of the email?
Mr. Britton regularly emailed very, very brief, statements. So it would be like noted or approved, nothing like that, often in uppercase. My recollection was it was in uppercase, but I need to look at the emails again.
Commissioner, I have an application for the next part of the evidence to move into a private session because I anticipate it will raise just some personal issues for Mr. Mallard.
Is there any difficulty with those who are in the room remaining in the room?
No.
No, that's
All right.
fine.
Might just shut the door. Is we arrived at the usual form of order late in the last sittings appropriate?
Yes.
Right. Pursuant to Section 12B(2) of the Royal Commissions Act, I direct that the next part of the evidence be taken in private, and that those who are currently in the hearing room may remain in the hearing room. Pursuant to Section 12B(1) of the Royal Commissions Act, I direct that the transcript of the private session of this inquiry not be published, save that the non-publication order takes the usual form as was expressed during the last sittings. And I'll get the nod once we go into private session. Thank you.
Mr. Mallard, I want to take you back to an answer you gave after you received the email from the acting CEO, and you described, I asked you about the effect on you, and you described it as a punitive action, and you spoke about being singled out and bullied previously by the acting CEO in workshops and other particular meetings. Would you expand on that? When did that conduct start? Sorry, was the conduct a one-off, or were there a number of instances?
There was a pattern that was occurring. I mentioned in my evidence previous hearing the stick-it note incident in the workshop at Linnea. From memory, that was after this event, it might not be. And where he announced to everybody, when I was talking about the risks for the organisation was turnover of CEOs and constant restructures, he announced it to everyone. Oh, everyone knows that the mayor's office wants to shut down City Futures by September. And I diarised that, and it upset me a lot. Went back and talked to my team about that if they're hearing those rumours. There was...
That was after this email?
By September, the council elections were, I think that was after. I'd have to make sense of it after.
Can you recall anything before the email?
There's just a pattern in ELTs that I was talked over, or my contribution wasn't taken seriously, and I'm always pointing out I'm a risk adverse in context of the Act, and always pointing out the procedures we need to do, or so forth. To the point where one of the other directors, the director of planning, she told me this later on, went and saw him and said, "You've got to stop singling Shayne out, and it's bullying in ELT, what you're doing to him." You know,
Who was that director of planning?
Lena.
Kakish?
Yes. And she's a very strong, forthright woman, and she thought it was wrong, and she came to see me. And to the point where I was avoiding engagement if I didn't have to.
You referred to ELT, their meetings of the executive group?
Yes.
Directors?
Yes.
And managers? Or
No.
directors?
Executive leadership team. The directors, the CEO, and usually the CEO's EA.
Would councillors ever, I'm sorry, would councillors ever attend?
No, it would be inappropriate for councillors to attend, although prior to my joining ELT, the mayor was invited to attend occasionally just to have a consultation, but not to make decisions, which I don't think that's unusual in local government, but that's just as a guest. We have guests come all the time, of course. We have externals come and present reports and things all the time, in person or on the screen.
So a councillor or councillors, mayor or otherwise, attending such a meeting for the purpose of having a briefing or getting feedback is okay, but otherwise inappropriate in your view?
It's the exception. You wouldn't normally have councillors or the mayor there. I mean, the whole time I was in ELT, which is 2 years, I don't think any councillor, I don't recall any councillor doing the mayor attending the meeting. And if they attended, it would be a narrow agenda slot.
Yes.
To just discuss, you've been elected, what's your vision? Maybe but not, let's talk about industrial relations problems we've got in the work.
But that didn't happen in your time?
No, it didn't, no.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Just moving to another topic. On the last occasion, I asked you about one of the positions that was created that I think you occupied at one stage, the senior advisor position.
Yes.
And where it was moved to, I think, coming under your director.
Yes.
And obviously by that time, as the director, that's the position where I think Ms. Bhutani was
Yes.
appointed on a temporary contract
That's correct.
and eventually was appointed in that role in a permanent capacity after it was advertised.
Yes.
And I asked you some questions about the kind of reporting structure. I hope this is on the system. Would you bring up document, please, LCC.001.003.0091? We may leave that for the minute. A different topic. The proposal with the amphitheatre dome.
Mhm.
Before you left council, did you have an involvement in that proposal?
Yes, under the unsolicited proposal policy, I did, yes.
When did you first learn of the proposal?
I always have trouble with dates, as you know. Early this year, February 25, I got a message, a diary invitation from the CEO's EA, or maybe an acting CEO still at that point, to a surprise visit to up the Central Coast. I think it was Morrison. And then you look through who's been invited. Julie Scott got one as well to go the next day, I think it was, or the day after. And so we trekked up, and we were meeting. Cloak and dagger. We're meeting at the McDonald's. So,
Can I just stop you there? So the invitation was surprise visit to Morisset, and from the invitation you could see who else was invited?
I think so. I was certainly aware that Julie had been invited.
Other members of staff?
Well, others turned up
Okay.
there, but I'm not sure. I'm really not certain if I could see who was invited, but I became aware very quickly that Julie was going there too.
So you rock up to, and at that point you have no idea what it's about?
We had no idea.
So it kept to the description of the surprise visit?
Yes.
And so you rock up to McDonald's?
Yes.
Who's there?
Julie and I got there an hour early to have a chat, and then enrolled into the car park. The acting CEO, the acting director of operations, Peter Cicluna, Councillor Dr. Betty Green, and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Hull. From memory, I don't think there's anyone else, but I could be wrong with that. Certainly the highlights in terms of who turned up. And then we all trekked straight across the road from the McDonald's to this ginormous structure, which I had seen only the week before when I was driving past, because I just happened to be up the Central Coast, and I was wondering what on earth it was. So it was just a coincidence that I'd already just seen it a week earlier.
So the group drove across, and there's this structure in place at Morisset.
Still there today.
And it's described as the amphitheatre?
It looks like a quarter of a geodesic dome, you know, that sort of gridding, and it's got a cover over it. Yes. It's huge.
And when you had this, when was it revealed to you what was going on with the surprise visit?
Well, there's people set up, there was some catering, all that, and we jumped out of our cars and started to walk across. And the CEO was very animated about what this was about. And we met proponents.
Commissioner, can I rise to my feet?
Yeah.
There's multiple documents related to this unsolicited proposal, which we've made claims of that.
Yep.
And there are contractual and documents that we keep confidential. I don't know where this is going or whether it will trespass anything, but I'm conscious if it does trespass into those.
All right. Well, we're early doors just yet. I'm alive to that.
Yes.
Perhaps we'll just tread carefully, and
Yes.
if there is a problem, don't hesitate to let me.
And
I think we're at a background stage at the moment.
Yes, we're at the McDonald's.
Yeah. We've crossed the road.
We've actually crossed the
They're
road.
not,
And
there's
there's
not
catering.
McDonald's, and I've moved to another catering. You haven't accepted, but yes, it may come up.
Don't hesitate to let me know, and all councillors.
Thank you.
Uh,
I wouldn't eat at McDonald's if I'd known it was catering across the road. But,
so you did eat at
if Julie and I had a breakfast burger.
Can't drive to the Central Coast without stopping it.
All right, so you've given evidence that the CEO spoke to begin with,
Oh,
or maybe not to begin with.
no, he's just animated about this structure.
Animated in the sense of excitement.
Yeah, I think he was. He actually did come up to me and say, "What do you think of this?" But he's moving around the group. Yeah.
Mhm. And by that time, had you been told what actually was being proposed?
No, once there were introductions done. As I said, there were some lobbyists there and the proponents there, and then people from the proponents and the lobbyists talked about what the situation was, and the CEO made a contribution at that point. We were all standing in sort of a semicircle underneath the structure.
What actually was, you're up in Morisset, this dome amphitheatre is in place, it's in situ.
Yes.
How is Liverpool City Council linked with this?
Okay, so this was all briefed to us, and subsequently, obviously, I know it because I worked on the project at council. It's an odd situation. The dome was built as a developer contribution to a subdivision up there, but it was contingent upon that road that goes past the McDonald's being upgraded for the traffic study. Subsequent, that was a commitment made by the previous Liberal coalition government, apparently. And then the new Labor government came in and said, we're not going to do that. And so the structure itself was therefore non-compliant, I suppose, for the purpose of which it was going to be used, which was entertainment venue. And they were looking to offload it. And they claimed there was interest from other councils.
From that initial, the surprise visit, at a general level, what happened with any interest in the amphitheatre with Liverpool City Council after that?
So then we applied the unsolicited proposal policy, which may by then have been formally the policy of council, but nonetheless the draft is still the policy of the council, which we talked about earlier evidence. And that triggers, there's gateways in that. And that trigger, the first gateway is unsolicited proposal goes to the manager of economic development. And that's why Julie was there, who does, with very few resources, a bit of a desktop assessment and says, is this worthwhile looking at or is this not? And we get a lot of, strange proposals, and so subsequently, my understanding, Jason then connected Julie to the proponents, the lobbyists and the proponents, to start some paperwork and to start that process in the proposal.
Okay. You've distinguished between the proponents and the lobbyists.
Yes.
What was the role of the lobbyists?
Oh, I think just, and I confess I've been a lobbyist myself in the past. It's just to connect the decision makers with the proponents. The proponents don't have the skills to understand the networks, communicate with local government or with state government, because there was a state government role in there with that road, and council has this up there. That council has effectively some sort of liabilities for this structure too. So there was a lot of moving parts.
Has the proposal continued to be considered and developed within council? Sorry, within council?
Well, judging by legal counsel, suggests that it has continued. When I there's committees that broadly were considering the proposal. under the policy, once it actually specifies the manager of economic, manager of city economy, gateways an initial desktop assessment, which it goes to the CEO, who says this is worth looking at, right? And there are no resources applied to it at that point, other than that person's time. So then
Julie's looked at it.
yeah.
She then sends it to the CEO.
Yeah, she asked for more information from
Yeah.
the components. The finances weren't very thorough and that sort of stuff. So she tries to get that together. Then it goes to this, under the policy goes to the CEO, who gateways it then as a check, and creates a project control group, ECG, specifically to do a deep dive into this proposal. This is before it goes to council. And apply some budget to that, to do a deep dive into it, to subsequently deliver a report which may or may not recommend to proceed further. And at that point, the CEO would likely brief councils and do a report to council. Yeah, the briefing of the councils isn't in the policy, but you would expect that to happen. But they were all aware of it. And then go to council, public exhibition. So it has a process has to go through.
That's the pathway under the unsolicited.
That's correct. There's a simplified explanation of it. Yes, that's right.
And that was adopted in about March 2025.
After the policy was drafted and apparently it was sitting around for a while.
Yes.
And then after the Hammondville issue that we talked about earlier, it went through council and went and became formal policy. I checked that in the break, by the way. And
Was that was sometime adopted formally earlier this year? Is that your recollection? I might have the date wrong, but
May.
if you don't know, that's fine.
It would be earlier this year, I think you'd be right. And it wasn't my directorship that did the report. That's what I was talking about before, was governance and legal. But I did check in the break, and it's now formal policy. I was right in my recollection.
Commissioner, just for your purposes,
Yes.
the unsolicited proposal policy was adopted on the 24th of March of this year, and it's document INQ.018.001.0009.
Thank you.
And that's on the website. It's the first thing you point people to.
And there's a procedure, there's a document that goes with it.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, there's two documents.
And has that, to your knowledge, been passed? Well,
Yes, they would have gone. My understanding is went through council, exhibition, come off exhibition, no amendments, comes policy.
so there's a policy. It's like the code of conduct. There's the code of conduct, then there's the code of conduct.
Practice. Yes.
So in a similar fashion, there's two associated documents with the unsolicited proposals.
Yes, and they have to be read together.
I'm
So we learned our lessons from Hammondville very quickly.
is that an appropriate time?
Yes, sorry. It's Mr. Mallard will take the lunch break,
Okay.
and we'll resume at 2 p.m. So if you wouldn't mind being back here a moment before then, I'd be grateful.
Okay.
Thank you. 2 p.m.
Mr. Mallard, before lunch, you were taking us through the procedures that have been adopted for the consideration of the unsolicited proposal about the amphitheatre.
Mhm.
And you spoke about a project control group
Yes,
that was going to do a deep dive into the proposal.
that's correct.
And then it ultimately would, my note was, report to the mayor or?
No, prepare a report to the CEO.
Oh. And then depending on what was the result of the deep dive, that may then have resulted in a report to council about the proposal.
Yes, there's other checks and balances in there. I think from memory, it has to do a risk assessment, of course, and I think that from memory, there's a report that goes at some point in that process, or maybe it's parallel to the council, to Eric.
Yep. Now, in addition, has another committee been established as part of the proposal, but is looking more at the nuts and bolts of the proposal actually being put into operation?
The CEO established effectively another PCG or a committee to look at the implementation and delivery of the project in Woodward Park.
Does that second PCG, PCG, have a particular name?
I'm not aware of a name for it, but I'm sure it would be diarised as some sort of name. But that second group or PCG is not in the unsolicited proposal policy. That's not in that scope of steps to go through. So it's a separate process.
And you said it's looking at the implementation and delivery of the project, even though the project actually hasn't been endorsed by council yet.
Yes, the PCG that I was on, and I was invited to be on the second one and I declined. The PCG on the PCG as established by the policy is given resources, and the CEO allocated some budget to it to do the analysis of the proposal. Right, that's when we move it to a much more serious assessment. And when I left, I was tasked by that PCG, chaired by Peter Cicluna, who was then the acting director of operations, to procure through our procurement processes requests for quote one of the a major firm to come and do a really detailed analysis of the cost benefits, how it fits into our. I've been asked to slow down, by the way. Cost benefits, how it fits into our into council's strategic plans, and the risks. The risks are quite broad, from planning risks to financial risks. And so when I left, we were trying to procure, like a KPMG or someone to do that work. There was a probity advisory firm, the same one that did the report for Ammonville, and an advisor assigned to work with that PCG. Yeah.
PCG.
Yeah. Because in the policy, it's very clear and was reiterated many times in meetings. All of the meetings were online, but they were nearly weekly. That council has to be arm's length from the proponents at this point, and needs to assess it vigorously and independently, and not show bias towards it. So the PCG we were operating quite secretly in a sense, that ELT knew about it, and but I don't recall being briefed to anyone else. And that's when I left. The other one you talked about.
Sorry, just before you turn to the other one.
Sure.
When you said council has to be at arm's length from the proposal, the use of the word council are you referring to the governing body or the rest of the council dealing with operations? Or both?
That's a good question. The probity advisor in one meeting was very firm that the CEO and other operational people need to be arm's length from, not show bias towards it. And you might recall from the earlier report on Hammondville, we were conscious of the lobbying provisions in the policy as well.
Now, the second PCG that was established, which you described as implementing and delivery, looking at the implementation and delivery of the project, were you invited or requested to be on that
Yes.
second PCG?
Yes, I got a diary invitation and it was then repeated in my diary at that time for this meeting. Immediately a red flag went up for me because I'm on the policy, the one implemented by the policy, and the probity advisor had given us quite strong instructions around independence and non-showing bias. And I felt, and I wrote this to Peter Cicluna as my reason not attending it. I didn't write it to Jason though, but to Peter, because I felt that was conflicting with the policy and the procedures in the policy about being arm's length from the assessment. So particularly if you're overlapping on the two committees, if you're on that other committee, which is clearing the way for it to be implemented. Now, I didn't go to the meetings, but I got briefed on them. Julie Scott was put on it. I think Peter Cicluna was on it. Emmy Tinson was on it.
This is the second. Mhm.
And I got briefed back on what the work they were doing, which was, as you are aware of now, looking to amend the WESIG grant to Brickmakers Creek to be able to finance this project. Planning issues were just being discussed. I know Lena was in and out of that. She would mention it to me.
Who did?
The director of planning.
Nina
Because they're genuine, and we were looking at this on the main PCG that I was on. There were issues around traffic management. If it's going to be a stadium or a music venue, traffic and sound was a concern too, because there's quite a few residential towers around it. And then environmental and just impact on sporting groups. There's massive sporting facilities there, netball and so forth.
I think we kind of leapt ahead.
Right.
Put broadly, the proposal is that the amphitheatre would be constructed or established where?
Woodville Park, which is down there in Brickmakers Creek near the Whitlam Centre. Off Hoxton Park Road, which is coincidentally number 3 Hoxton Park Road we spoke about last time. It's right next door to it.
And so by the time you left your employment at the council, you declined to become a member of this second group?
Yeah, right. I never participated in it at all. And I wrote to Peter Cicluna because he was chair of the main PCG and pointed out why I wouldn't be involved. I thought I was hinting at it. I thought it was a big hint to him that I felt it was inappropriate. I probably said that, and they went no further. Then Lauren, my EA, got the CEO's EA to pull me out of the constant, diary invitations.
The email that you sent to Peter,
Yes.
roughly when was that?
Ooh. I always wish I had my diaries here to do these sort of answers. So if we went to see the facility in February this year.
That was the surprise visit?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. I'm remembering my notes. So I call it the main PCG, the formal one, right? That was meeting weekly, pretty quickly. It was we had competitive tension allegedly with the other councils, and we were keen to move forward and do the assessment. So it would be around about March, I suppose, that the other one was started to get active. I know the CEO briefed Eric on the proposal, which is in the policy. So, you know, and obviously ELT were fully briefed on it. That all happened in February, March.
Just another topic, Mr. Mallard, when you became the director of City Futures, immediately before that you occupied the senior advisor role.
Yes.
And could you remind me at that stage, who did the senior advisor report to?
Yes, when I was employed on that 3-month contract, that position reported to John Ajak, to the CEO.
And physically, where was that?
Um,
Where was your desk?
Yeah. I took over. There's a break. So Mayor's Suite, reception, Mayor's Suite to the right, and lobby where you sit. And to the left, there was a breakout meeting room, which was not being used. And so I said, I'll move in there, cognizant of the fact that we'll be moving to our new building within months. So I didn't want to have any restructuring occurring. And that sat me at a door open, smoked glass, and I just used the conference desk. And I had eyeball with Mayor's EA, who happened to be Lauren Myers, and the door to the Mayor's office, so I could be aware of what was going on. And that was sealed off from the corridor.
When you were appointed the director of City Futures, that was a new directorate that was created as part of the restructure.
Mm-hmm.
Did the senior advisor role shift from where it was placed within the organisation?
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure the mechanism how that occurred, but Mr. Ajaka didn't want to have. He had a view that the directors reported to him, and that's how he managed. That's how he wanted to manage the council. So it was not surprising it was relocated, but I just don't remember exactly how it had to go on through the consultation process with the unions and so forth. But it was appointed to report to me, which I thought if John didn't want that position reporting, that was totally appropriate for me since I'd held it myself for 2 years, 12 to 14 and a couple of months now, to be able to help. And initially, I think it might have even been Mimi, had a temporary role in that before he applied in a competitive process and got appointed to the manager of communications. But Betty didn't have a lot of political experience, so I thought it'd be good to be able to liaise with her in terms of managing any situations. She didn't come from local government or government at all.
She was, Miss Butani,
Yes.
was originally appointed under a temporary contract.
That's correct.
Who raised with you, her appointment on a temporary contract?
Her recruitment.
Hmm.
I was by then a director, and I moved into an office next to the communications team on the same floor, but that's sealed off from the mayor's office. The councillors can't go through to those areas, but there's a door that we can go through. And I got either a call or a text from John Ajaka. Can you come to the mayor's office? Right, which is not unusual, but so I happened to be free. So I walked into the mayor's office. John was sitting. There's the mayor, John, and who I became aware of was Betty, the back to me, and they were having a discussion. Mm-hmm. And that's when. From my memory, what had happened was that the mayor and Betty had lunch, and the mayor explored this opportunity with her, and then he brought her back to the office, called John Ajaka, who was in another meeting, I believe, and then by then they had sort of said, "Oh, let's make this happen," contract, and brought me in to then do the arrangement. That's when I became aware she had previously been his lawyer. I was told that bit.
Previously been whose lawyer?
The mayor's. But not currently, you know.
And when you said that you arrived, sorry, the mayor and Ms. Butani had lunch, and then you said something about he'd explored an opportunity with her.
What are you doing? What you know, that type of, look, that's anecdotal. That's what I was told. What are you doing? What's the future hold for you? She was disengaging from a law firm, I understand. And we were looking for someone with a smart person to replace me. But at that point, reporting to Ajaka, you know, as a senior advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did the mayor at the meeting declare that she had previously acted as his lawyer?
Yes, either John then pointed it out, he'd become aware of it at that point, or the mayor did. But I was aware at that point, and I didn't see a conflict with that because it was no longer the case.
Mm-hmm.
That she had previously been engaged in the past, like quite distant past, as his lawyer. And I thought, frankly, to me, that actually was an advantage. One, law qualifications are helpful, legal understanding is helpful in that job, and two, she, I'd assume, knew how to work with him, which is a challenge.
Why is it a challenge?
Oh, the challenge to work with a new CEO or anyone else if you don't know if you know, you're thrown in the deep end.
Idiosyncrasies or?
Yeah, that's right. And a challenge to work with me. But if someone's got some experience, then you hit the ground running much better. And that's the beauty of the contract system when in those sort of sensitive roles, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Yeah.
Why do you describe it as a sensitive role? Because it wasn't, sorry, why do you describe it as a sensitive role?
Well, any senior executive, not just the mayor, an EA needs to be aware of the amount of confidential information and discretion that's required.
Can I just stop you there? We're not talking about an executive assistant to the mayor. It was a senior advisor.
Yes, and a similar sort of consideration as an EA too. So they need to be aware of the discretion of the information they're privileged to, and how to handle that information. Yeah, and how to and to be sensitive to it.
Was any consideration given at the time to whether there should be a competitive recruitment process?
As I sort of started to allude to there, and this goes back to when I was there in 12 to 14, some roles are, as I just said, sensitive, require a character that will work with the mayor or a CEO, but particularly the mayor. And so recruiting someone on a contract, it turned out to be 12 months, but mine, for example, was 3 months. But I was known an entity by then, so that wasn't really the issue. But it gives you the opportunity to say it's not working, or the mayor to say it's not working to CEO, and then to say it hasn't worked out, we'll move on. Because some roles require that sort of sensitivity and flexibility, and I was advised that was permitted within the Act in terms of contract appointment. I note that Farooq gave evidence saying, or might have been Eddie Jackson, Dr. Jackson when he was here, gave evidence saying that it was to quickly fill an important technical position. It might have been the case when he was the CEO, but my experience had been to recruit someone to a sensitive position where we had difficulty retaining people because they didn't work in that situation very well, like didn't get on with the mayor. This is what happened to Mimi. Didn't have the right relationship. So that's why we would do that.
Would not the usual probationary period in a normal permanent employment arrangement give that flexibility, or is it something more that you're?
The answer to that question is yes, it would, and probationary period would. There's a timeline issue there of filling the position quickly. That's another factor, and
this position have to be filled quickly?
Yes,
Why?
because I had been recruited as a director. Mimi Curran had been dropped in there by me. She was on contract at that point. But Mimi and the mayor, I should have seen it coming, were not compatible working together. Then I moved her across temporarily to communications because I had a big problem in communications leadership at the time to shake it up because there was a bit of a problem. And so there was a vacancy in the mayor's office that needed to be filled.
Was there any policy as to when positions should be recruited through I'll call it an ordinary competitive recruitment policy, or when described as direct or contract appointments would be appropriate?
No, we just applied the Act, which set up to 12 months contract appointment.
Appreciate the Act. It's sort of, right?
Yeah.
There's no internal guidance as to when utilising those provisions under the Act might be appropriate.
No.
Be it for the flexibility that you described or the need to fill.
No, we took advice from Craig Napick, who reported to Farooq Portelli. In terms of the advisor to the CEO, to the mayor, so CEO, having a skilled person like Mimi, we appointed her. She applied to be a director, was unsuccessful, but John Ajaka said, I remember saying it to me, she's very talented and I think she can shake this place up a bit, and that's certainly true. In fact, I negotiated it with her. We put her on a 1-year contract. And as I said, dropped her into the mayor's office, now moved to communications. And then we advertised the comms leadership role, and we had 27 applicants. I went through a lot of job interviews. Rick was on the panel with me, but she was the standout for that. Another example where we did it was we recruited the senior manager of commercial property. And I had to build my team really quickly around that. Yourself from previous evidence I've given, there was no strategy and a lot of pressure on us to lease out that Liverpool Civic Place, Council Civic Place, and we needed good people to do that. So Steve Simat and another guy called Jeffrey Appel applied through a competitive process. Only 2 applicants who got though, because councils don't pay enough money to get people from the property industry. We appointed, Farooq was on that panel with me, and so was Jason, in fact. We appointed Steve Simat. We had a deputy's position that was vacant. We hadn't recruited for that, haven't advertised, but we appointed Jeffrey to it on a contract to try him out, see if that worked, and then we were going to go to market and do that. So there were examples that we needed, and time was imperative in that commercial property space. I mean, Jeffrey was amazing in doing the nuts and bolts on those big leases we did. So yeah, that's an example where it was practical. Yeah.
So you've explained some of the advantages and that can come to the organisation by that approach. Are there any downsides or risks in your view?
We got caught out a little bit running out of time. Like, it's a limited 12 months. That wasn't clear to us in the past. It was Farooq Portelli and the lawyers brought that to our attention. So Betty got towards the end of that.
When you say caught out, getting to the end of the 12
Well,
months?
there was a view. I inherited the view. The view was around when I was around in 2012 to 14 that you had up to 2 years. But that was corrected during my period there, the early days as a director, that was not correct. So I guess once we were aware of that clearly, then we were able to put in place the recruitment processes to prevent that occurring. The downside? Well, the downside is some people, the perception that your inquiry has got as one of its terms of reference, as, or the previous inquiry was that there's favouritism and nepotism and all that, because that could open up those allegations. Yeah.
You're talking about the 430 investigation.
Yes.
What do you have an observation about that perception or otherwise?
Well, first of all, the perception comes from political opponents of the mayor, so that it is coloured in that context. As I indicated previously, inquiry, I resigned from my political party to try and head that off, to not compromise my ability to do my job. I think I'm relatively successful with that. Some of the other, look, it's only natural for a political position to want to have some people around them that are people that identify with their political views, whether it's Labor, Green or Liberal mayors. You'll find that in all councils. So, I mean, when I got there, there's this exaggeration. There was like 9 or 10 or 12 political appointments around the place. It wasn't the case. Yeah, so, and then and your opponents raise that. We've been raised in Parliament, media get hold of it, so it gets a bit of traction. So that's probably the biggest downside. And I mean, I was relieved. I was happy to do a 3-month contract. I knew what I was there for. Then I was definitely keen when I decided to run for position of Director of City Futures to go through as vigorous as possible recruitment process, which I did, which the previous inquiry acknowledged.
Do you think that if there was a policy that set out when contract or direct appointment can be used, that might go some way to not eliminating the perception to which you refer, but at least being able to manage it? Even if it is permitted
Yes.
in the Act. Is that a clear enough?
Well, I think this goes to the tension in local government versus state ministers, opposition officers, federals come and go from ministers' offices that had a different view, that surely the mayor will have some people around him or her that are aligned with their agenda and they can trust. So that's a tension that is in the Act, because the more reforms that government's done over the last 20 years to local government, the more they want it to be like a board of directors, unified in their decision making and not having politics. But there's always politics when you elect people. So the answer to your question is, I would think maybe the department might look at it, some policy template on that recruitment in that space. I think mayors, particularly popular elected, I think all mayors should be entitled to have 1 or 2 staff that they can have a say in picking in their office.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
I think in terms of the broader issue of mayors, and they all do it differently. I mentioned the previous inquiry, Parramatta Mayor had a direct advisor, contrary to the Act, but they're not listening. And you acknowledge that Wendy Waller, when she was the Labor Mayor, didn't have an advisor. But I think mayors should have the power to have a say in the recruitment of 1 or 2, maybe the EA and an advisor for them to do their job, rather than being strictly the public servant model where we do the panel. And because when we do the panel to appoint someone, say the EA to the mayor, the people on that panel have got political antenna on to say this person will work well with that person.
But the political advisor position was not an advisor position at Liverpool to the mayor.
No.
It was, and if I can just bring up LCC.001.003.0091. This is a document dated around February 2024, and you can see you're one of the nominated people submitting it, and you can see it's redesign of personal assistant to Director of City Futures and change of reporting line for senior advisor.
Okay, yes.
If we could go through to page 4. Oh, yes, sorry. Now that was the city economy structure currently. Mm-hmm. And you can see you've got manager of city economy. Was that Julie Scott?
Yes, it's always been Julie Scott.
And you can see there that the senior advisor reported to her and then she would report to you. And then if we jump across to page 5, this was the proposed change. And you can see from the change, the senior advisor, now instead of reporting to Julie as the manager, there's now a direct report to you.
Yes.
So if we just, and my understanding is that proposed change to the structure was adopted towards the beginning of 2024.
Yes. I think the previous structure you showed was a temporary arrangement. You're just waking up a dormant memory cell on this one. I think when I'm thinking that before City Futures was created or activated, that may have been the way Mr. Ajaka moved away from reporting to him to report to Julie, but that wasn't very long at all.
Well, if we can go back to the first page, under section 2, supporting information,
Okay.
we've got in early 2023, the new CEO, who would be Mr. Ajaka,
Yes.
and executive recommended a 12-month temporary role, senior advisor to assist the council and executive deliver the 100-day plan. You see that?
Yes, yes.
In creating the City Futures Directorate in September 2023, it's now proposed to recruit to permanently fill the position and become a direct report to the Director City Futures. So from that, it appears that it was anticipated only to be a temporary position to assist the council and the executive to deliver the council-endorsed Mayor's 100-day plan. Now, there's no reference there to advising or assisting the Mayor per se.
No.
It's described as assisting the council, and I assume the use of the word council there is to the governing body, all councillors and Mayor, and the executive to assist in delivering the 100-day plan. Now,
Do you agree with that?
I can see Julie's written this, I might say. The 100-day plan, many more days than 100 days, and still hasn't been fully delivered. So it's like, whilst it might look like it's a short-term proposal, but that was the focus of the council at that time. My feeling is that there was a holding, because the previous structure showed there was a holding position where the senior advisor was reporting to Julie when it was Julie's area or city economy, it was under community and lifestyle. And then once my directorate was created and I was recruited, they were all formally in, and she came across to mine. So I'd say the timing here is that was the holding position, and then the restructure and that final structure you show where the senior policy advisor reported directly to me was adopted.
no description.
This is just JCC, by the way. Yeah.
No description in this document as to that reporting structure to be a holding pattern.
No, and this is
But-
JCC. This is consultative document to the
that
unions.
you're required to do, or the council's required to do.
Yeah.
I think the issue that I'm trying to get at is that in some of your answers, you've really emphasised that it's a senior advisor to the mayor. Can I just pause for a sec? For example, you spoke about the mayor and Mimi Curran were not compatible, weren't going to work together. And the description here doesn't focus on the mayor.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering where the role it would appear to have metamorphosized from being an advisory position within the, I'll call it broadly, the operational structure of the council, to suddenly it metamorphosizes into a senior advisor position, which in substance appears quite personal to the mayor?
Um,
And I suppose question number one is that impression that I've put to you gained from evidence we've heard and documents that I've read. Is that something that you observed?
I mentioned this in evidence a couple of weeks ago that I described myself in my CV as senior advisor to the mayor and the CEO. Even though legally I was senior advisor to the CEO. Liverpool Council, particularly under Farooq Portelli when he was CEO, had a very black and white view that no one reports to the mayor, right? But the community has a view, and the mayor has a sense of expectation from the community that he has some advisors to help him do his serious work he does in the community. So that the position, when I was in the position, reported to the CEO, initially, as I said previously, to a director when I first started in 2010, but then to the CEO, to Farooq Portelli and Carl Wolf. Then when I came back, I was reporting to, for that short period, reporting to Ajaka. And then it came across the report to me. But at all times, the CEO or the director allows the mayor and any councillor, as I also said in last evidence, access to that advisor. I didn't have time in this 2 months I was there to really engage with councillors. They were all just newly elected. But the previous role, where I was there for 2 years, I did quite a bit of work with Labor councillors and others to assist them in projects they were doing in their community.
How are the other councillors informed that they can access this resource of the senior advisor? Sorry, I'll reframe that.
Yeah.
When you're the head of the City Futures Directorate, the senior advisor is reporting to you either initially through the manager, then subsequently directly to you. Did you, or how did you inform the other councillors that this was a resource that was available?
There's no, in the current period I was there as director, the answer to your question, there's no formal way of telling them that. One, it's a sense of awareness because they're in meetings and often available, attending meetings that they may be attending. The previous term, when I was there for 2 years in a row, I contacted the councillors, and when I got elected to Parliament, when I was they came, many of them came up and congratulated me because I've been working with them on various matters. But yeah, it's a good observation about how they knew they had access to that advisor.
And to your knowledge, when you were the director of City Futures with the senior advisor either directly or indirectly reporting to you, at any time, did she do any work for example, any of the Labor councillors?
In a broader sense, the answer would be there were some. I mean, we're working on. I had responsibility, but not much resourcing to work on a master plan for Miller and 2168, one of the sort of socioeconomically most challenged areas of Liverpool. And Betty was assisting me in some of that work we were doing around that. I was looking at a development, like a Waterloo type response, development-driven outcomes, but there wasn't resourcing for that. So that was certainly Councillor Betty Green and Anoon both came from that area, Anoon, and that was certainly one of their agendas in many of our strategic meetings to work on that. So in a sense, she was doing some assistance in that regard, and I'm not 100% certain. I do recall she may have attended some meetings around that. So,
but that's just attending. Sorry, I'll withdraw that. That is attending meetings where a number of people have attended, not, to your knowledge, providing, for example, if a councillor approached her and said, I'm really interested in establishing an animal welfare shelter, but I need some research done on it. Can you assist me? So no kind of one-on-one?
The normal process there would be, and I'm sure there's a good example, that they would come to a director, probably to me, and then I would allocate project work to the advisor in that space.
And is that also the case if there was a particular issue that the mayor was interested in, that he wanted Ms. Bhutan to do some work on, it should have come to you?
I would, no, he had, Mr. Bastani had some autonomy. I was fine with that. But I was, had weekly meetings with her to be updated on where and she came to all of my manager meetings or came in by teams to update us on what the project she was working on, where it's at. Because I was very big on clear some of the projects like Woodville Park, for example.
What was her autonomy?
She's a senior advisor. It's like, to me, that was, I had been in the role. It's ability to be advised by the mayor about an issue and then contact, and she was allowed to do that because she was a part of the operations, to contact the director or manager, try and see what's going on in this problem. So I used the story the other day about trees. You know, it's one, believe it or not, it's one of the most common things we get complaints about. You know, trees hanging over someone's backyard. Then she would be able to try and resolve that issue without me being too involved in that.
Were there any guidelines that set out what her autonomy was? Or was it up to her discretion?
Well, we could pull up a PD because I know we worked on that quite a bit, position description, but it was to have close liaison with me.
You spoke about the mayor and is it Mimi Curran?
Yes.
Were not compatible to work together.
Freudian.
Why was that?
A personality, difference in personality.
And what were the two personalities?
Mimi, I have a lot of respect for Mimi. I thought she was very good. She came from outside of government. She was a consultant on the private sector and was appropriately, in my view, quite combative in terms of, you know, following instruction and pushing back. The mayor didn't appreciate that, nor did some managers around the organisation either, I might add. That was certainly her character, and I thought a strength because I thought take up some of the cobwebs around the organisation. But in the end, we parted company because of that conflict.
You left employment at the...
Yeah, we parted company because of that friction between her and some of the staff. But that's, you know, that was an amicable parting way.
Sorry. You spoke about the change in the organisational structure when Mr. Ajaka became the CEO, and there was a change from any direct reports to the CEO other than the directors. So it was a very clean CEO, and then underneath the 6 directorates, all reporting to the CEO.
Yes.
And then underneath that, the various sections or divisions of the various directorates.
Yes.
Now, the structure has now changed in that not only have 2 directorates been abolished, but there are now a number of direct reports to the CEO other than the 4 directors. So it appears to be a reversion to the organisational structure that was in existence before Mr. Ajaka. was appointed.
Well, yes.
I just want to ask your view, given your experience with local council, about the advantages or disadvantages of the two structures.
Well, no two council structures are the same, and they very much reflect a CEO, particularly CEO, maybe the council and the mayor, particularly when they had a role in the structure, way they want to operate. Clearly, Mr. Breton wants to be more hands-on in some of the areas of the council's operations. He's got now directly reporting to him audit and risk, which is an ARIC. Well, ARIC doesn't report to him, but it'll involve ARIC. He's got commercial property area, which is, the area we really need to, they need to, the Project 26 project. I think what the other one had there, communications at the moment sitting over there in Tina Bono's area. I can't think what the other one was, but and obviously Mr. Breton wants, I said strategy, Hibber's area. And I might not have said strategy. He's got strategy reporting as well, which is all the reporting, annual reports and biannual reports and strategic work. So he's taken those on. He wants to be more hands-on. That's his decision. He's a very hands-on CEO. John wasn't. He had a view of, he wanted to have the directors report to him through ELT, and he wanted to be involved in the big picture stuff and tried to get problems away from him as much as possible. But so it's just two different types. But where I looked at different structures, some councils have two executive directors and they have directors below that. There are all kinds of different structures.
But my question was, can you comment on advantages or disadvantages? You've commented that it may be a creature of the nature of the CEO and the way that the CEO will manage the organisation. But have you got any broader comments on advantage or disadvantage?
My view is a CEO's office with some of the critical areas, perhaps reporting direct, like audit and risk, which is highlighted very bold by the government in terms of councils. But the directors have their areas of work. You abolish city futures. A lot of the areas that were put into my area don't fit neatly anywhere else. Like city economy, my advice before I left was really has to go to the CEO, because it was city and community and lifestyle, but it's not and it is sort of community, but it's really heavy hitter with businesses and universities, major stakeholders in our city. So that's why it fitted well with city futures. Commercial property fitted well with city futures, in my view. We got the runs on the board very quickly, but it was floundering, and it wasn't labelled commercial property. It was floundering over in Farooq's area, where they also got responsibility for compulsory land acquisition for roads and water drainage works and a huge amount of work, and getting a priority right. So separating them was a good move, but not putting them under one director was my view, but because they're quite distinctly different areas of council activities.
Notice, pause, can we bring up INQ.009.001.0033? And it's page 524. It can be live streamed.
Yeah.
You can see that this is, I think, at least the directors and what is included in the office of the CEO. So as you said, you've got audit and risk, commercial development, and now you've got city strategy and performance.
Yes.
While city economy has gone under planning and design.
That's correct. Sorry. Yeah, that's what it is now. And
sorry.
And I gave evidence a few weeks ago that I made a submission on that because there's inherent risks in putting city economy in planning and design, because a lot of the engagement for city economy is with the property industry. So And it's a growing important area for councils, city economy, from small businesses to the big businesses. And now one had the really important responsibility of the university sector and the health sector. And it was engaging with the airport and also with Bradfield, the Bradfield Authority. So if I was a CEO, I'd be putting that over into my, if you're going to have an officer CEO and someone running that, if you didn't have a director for City Futures, I'd have that away from the other ones.
When you were a councillor on South Sydney, then City of Sydney,
Gosh,
did the structure, organisational structure of council adhere to one of the models?
now you're testing me.
Tough call.
Probably changed a bit over those 12
It
years.
certainly did, and it's a different act for the City of Sydney, so there's a little bit more engagement with the Lord Mayor and the actual operations than there is in the General Local Government Act. So I think, first of all, and there was a debate at our council about it too, I think both councils have deputy CEOs, and then filtered the directorates up through the deputy CEO to the CEO. I don't recall. Yes, I don't recall Office of the CEO with this sort of responsibility at South Sydney. City of Sydney, I'm not sure.
Excuse me for a minute. No further questions.
Just on this topic, Mallard, last time you were here, you gave some evidence that at I think a planning workshop you raised that you thought one of the biggest, larger risks facing the organisation was instability.
Yes.
Do you remember giving that evidence?
Yes, that was a SWOT.
Can you just explain to me why that was on your radar as a risk to the organisation at the time?
So, as I said, that was at Lanier, and Michelle was facilitating that workshop. It was just the directors, I'm the acting CEO, and it was a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and everyone was putting up sticker notes, and I put up on the weakness, the turnover of CEOs and the instability of the structure. At that point, the government hadn't amended the Act about the council having a role in the structure. And as I gave evidence at the last hearing, the mayor was procrastinating on it. He had the numbers on the council of putting the new structure through the council, which was creating a lot of instability across the whole organisation.
Why?
It can take up to 2 years to bed down a restructure. And when like there's stage one at the Liverpool Council's been gone through, which was just the amalgamation from 6 to 4. Stage 2 is probably underway now, which is rearranging all the, breaking up some business units and that. So the staff are not certain in terms of what their strategy is. My removal removes a whole of strategic work I was doing and direction I was giving to my directorate. They're doing what they call BAU, business as usual at the moment, but there's no lightning news direction that they're going in. The recruitment process has pretty much stopped because you don't recruit vacancies until you know what you're going to be doing. So yeah, it just creates instability, and of course the CEO turnover for any organisation, not just councils, it will always create instability as people get to understand the CEO. The CEO again readdresses the structure and priorities of the council. So I put that as a weakness because our council has that reputation. And that's when Jason famously said that everyone knows the mayor's office wants to close down City Futures for September. But and I think it was a legitimate observation. As I said again in the previous inquiry, which you're looking at in my transcript then, when the council still had control over the structure, John Jarker and I can't remember if I was a director or still an advisor then, but nonetheless, I may well have been a director. But John was pulling his hair out about getting, so he had the approval of the directorships, but not the structure below from the council. And the mayor just kept putting it off, I think, as a leverage.
What effect does that uncertainty or instability have to your observation on the operational side of the organisation about getting its work done and strategic planning and the like? Does it impact on those matters?
Yeah, it does.
How?
Well, change of priorities with the new CEO and the change of directors impacts the work plans that you agreed to with the team, and how they relate to the community strategic plan and the proposals of the organisation. It just, you know, it just creates uncertainty, and that creates reluctance to make difficult decisions, right, until you know where things are going. And it also creates reputational damage with the stakeholders, the community, and others that are dealing with the council when things keep changing.
Recruitment challenges?
Yes. So
Did you observe that yourself in filling roles within your team?
yes, yeah, and also, you know, well, recruitment challenges. Yes. So you'd advertise, and invariably it's people from other councils. We had a reputation for being unstable, and they'd ask us about the stability and the CEOs and that type of thing.
Candidates?
Yeah, particularly senior ones. And then when we go to market for services, sometimes it came up, you know, in regards to the council's instability.
How would it come up in that context?
Well, we couldn't attract anybody to in the first round to provide professional services to the council for the assessment of the Dome project, the first round. The anecdotal feedback we got was people didn't want to go near Liverpool Council at the moment. So there's a reputational issue there. I don't know whether they started the second round when I was there. We dropped down to sort of lower tier of consultants, and so that probably has been fixed now.
Earlier today, speaking of the amphitheatre or dome, you described the site visit. The Central Coast, and at least 2 councillors were there from your recollection.
Mm-hmm.
When you were a councillor at City of Sydney or South Sydney, would you attend site visits like that?
No, never one like that. I'd attend site visits, yes, but they'd be already formally in the council system. I mean, unsolicited proposals, I don't think the policy, the ICIC guidelines or anything were involved in it back in those days. I mean, the reason ICIC is involved in it and why we have to have a policy is it's a big area of potential corruption. The one-on-one negotiations, you know, Mr. Ajaka and the sports club, you know, that type of thing. It's to protect the organisation, both organisations, on that basis. So,
well, just on that point then, do you have a view about whether it's appropriate for councillors to attend a visit like the one at the amphitheatre in the Central Coast, given the stage that it was at that time?
No, it wasn't appropriate.
Why?
Because it was an unsolicited proposal. It hadn't even gone into, well, you could argue that it wasn't an unsolicited proposal legally because it hadn't submitted to the council, but you know, that's splitting hairs. It's an unsolicited proposal. It's gone through the CEO's office into the organisation. Under the policy, from memory, at some point, I'm not sure when it is, councillors need to be made aware of it, you know, but after we've done the assessment. We don't want to put the cart before the horse and say, this is fantastic, and then KPMG come back and say, this is a dog. We need to get all that lined up. Excuse all those analogies.
What about
metaphors? Sorry, metaphors.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Sorry, I said metaphors, not analogies.
Last time you were here, you gave some evidence about representations being made by constituents to councillors, and you gave some evidence about your experience as a councillor receiving those, and also as a council staff member. Were you ever aware of councillors requesting meetings between with council staff and the constituent to explore issues raised by the constituent? Be it a tree or DA or a compliance action or anything?
It's not inappropriate if it's approved by under delegation by the director.
Just pausing there. Are you aware of anything like that happening during your time at Liverpool City Council? That is a councillor saying, I want to have a meeting with you, Mr. Mallard, and the constituent to discuss the constituent issue, whatever it might be. Did that ever happen to you, for example?
Well, yes, but as a director, that's not inappropriate. And I'd always bring along someone to take minutes of that meeting. And then invariably that would be the mayor, usually, to talk about a problem. But that's the main reason, an issue. So
you don't see it being an issue with a director?
No, as long as the directors are fully aware of their legal obligations and around, operational conflicts of interest. We had implemented in the mayor's office, and I think Lena had implemented it also, but like a form, which I'd recommend all councils should have for those meetings, so it records conflicts of interest, anything. Because happened to me once at Liverpool, where you rock up to a meeting and you weren't aware who was going to be there, and you find out they're in court with the council, which is totally inappropriate. Just back right out of that situation. But a tree expert could go look at a tree, and a councillor might be invited to go along to advocate on behalf of the resident about the tree.
Why?
I think councillors, the successful ones, and looking at the Lord Mayor of Sydney, engage at that level. They might not. They won't direct the staff, I want that tree cut down, and they shouldn't do that. But they might say, here's the issue Mr. and Mrs. Jones have got. Branch fell on their carport, on their roof. What can we do about it? They want the tree cut down. And then the staff member, normally you'd have someone very senior go along to that. We'll say, well, we can go back and look at the policy and see what we can do. But that's, in my view, that's not totally inappropriate. Just don't direct them to do it.
Is there a policy about those types of meetings or interactions?
Other
than the councillor staff interaction and access to information policy?
There's a delegations policy. So the CEO delegates to directors. The directors can delegate to managers interaction with councillors.
Care would have to be taken, would not, that the interaction would not be perceived by the staff member to be a direction from
Absolutely.
The even if the words aren't said.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw that with the Councillor Stefsky correspondence around that or the other week. Very quickly you learn, even though you train councillors, they go through induction. Very quickly you learn those that are just not going to behave. Unfortunately, my experience has been when one causes a lot of trouble, the boundaries are pulled up higher for everybody.
But there's no, to your knowledge, policy that sets out clear guidance to staff and councillors as to what is appropriate or otherwise in those type of circumstances?
Council interaction policy and the delegations would be, or would there be in that circumstance? But my experience is that it's an exception that this sort of thing happens. It's not common.
Not common?
No.
Thank you. Nothing. Does anyone seek to ask Mr. Mallard some questions?
Yes, I do. I've spoken with Mallard and Ms. Richardson, and she's content for me to go first.
So who are you representing?
Mr. Mallard, my name is Ms. Hamilton Jewell. I'm counsel for Councillor Peter Estevez.
Okay.
Just check with the mic.
Oh.
Sorry, we're just shuffling so we can get microphones on the line.
That's all right.
I just have a handful of questions. You gave evidence on the last occasion that during your time as a director, you were inundated with requests for information from councillors. And just for you, Commissioner, the transcript reference for that is T961.
Thank you.
At 23 to 26. Am I correct in understanding the council support team, they did not report directly to you at the time you were with council? Is that correct?
That's correct. They triage if the councils use the correct system, not all of them did, email council support and Peter Rosevsky was one usually did that. Then they would, not always correctly, I might add, but they would triage it at one stage it was just to managers. I got it triaged to me as a director, so I knew what was happening. To the different directors at planning, whatever.
And picking up on that, so you didn't know the volume of council support requests that were coming through. You could only know about the ones that were being directed to you and your team.
ELC was discussing the high level of requests and the stress it was creating for the team.
And you gave evidence on the last occasion that there was a requirement to provide a response in a short period of time.
Yes, at the last hearing, we examined the policy. I think I said it was 3 or 4 days, actually, I think from memory, because I read the transcript last night, it was 2.
2 ordinary days. And this time frame created a lot of pressure. Yes. Evidence. Yep. Now, we don't need to go to the policy, but for the purposes of the transcript, it's OLG.001.001.0276. And in Annexure A to that policy, it actually provides a time for a response of 2 ordinary days.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in your capacity as a director, you attended certain council meetings?
All council meetings. Oh, you mean the formal public meetings? Yes.
And if I can just pull up, yes, I mean the full council meetings. Yeah. If I can just pull up the minutes for the meeting of the 26th of March, 2025. The doc ID is INQ.009.001.0009. For my part, I'm content with that. I understand there's no objection. Now, if you just look at that first page there, if you can scroll down a little bit, please. And just placing you can see your names there as someone who attended.
Yep.
Now, I'll come back to that document, so apologies, operator. I'd like to go to the agenda for that meeting, which is RIS.001.001.0002. Yes, thank you. And if you can zoom out a bit, please, thank you. Again, just to orient you, this is the council agenda for the ordinary council meeting on the 26th of March, 2025. And if you can go over, please, associate to page 286 of that document. And you can see here, this is a notice of motion. It's a notice of motion to establish a 30-day response time for councillor requests. And this was a motion that was put forward by Councillor Peter Rostevsky. And you can see what the motion is proposing to do is establish a standard response time of 30 days. And if I can now go to a different document, please, if you can go to RIS.001.001.0002. Oh, sorry, 0001. Now, this is a transcript taken from the YouTube video of the council meeting that took place on the 26th of March, 2025. And this is the debate in relation to that notice of motion that we saw on the screen. And if you can go down, please, the second last box on that page.
Sorry, do you want that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
You can see there, CR, there's a comment from Councillor Rostevsky. The current policy is 2 days, which I think is very unreasonable. See that?
Mm-hmm.
And you agree with that view, don't you, that 2 ordinary days is an unreasonable time frame to respond?
Well, it's up to the council to determine for their policy how many days. I didn't contribute to this, but I did some research, and 2 days is quite brief compared to like the City of Sydney. I think it's 5 days. So I concur. I think I recollect the CEO's response was 30 days was excessive, but somewhere in between the two. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a council decision.
It is, but you agree, don't you, that 2 ordinary days to respond adds to the pressure on your team to respond to those council support requests?
Well, in more recent times it has, yes.
And if you can go over to page 3, please. In the second last box there, again, you can see there's a comment from Councillor Rostevsky. Staff are doing a fantastic job by all means. The reason I put up the motion is because I think they need more support.
Fair enough.
And you agree with that statement, don't you, that the staff within council need more support in terms of dealing with the council support requests?
Well, that's a decision for the director. I'm not the director of the staff. we were getting reports that they were under significant pressure to process the requests in a timely manner so that we directors could do it within 2 days, because that includes the arrival of them. And there was some issue around some burnout, some of the staff. And when you've got that sort of pressure, mistakes can be made, human error can occur.
And if we can go back to the minutes, the INQ.009.001.009, and if you can go to page 69 of that document, please. And you can see here, this is that notice of motion again. And you can see that it was proposed that there be a standard response time of 30 days.
Yep.
And if you can go down to page 70, please. Item 1, all requests made by councillors be substantively responded to within 30 days of submission. And you agree, don't you, that increasing the time to 30 days would help relieve some of the burden and the time pressure on those responding to council support requests?
Well, 30 days, I think, personally, is excessive and could well create sort of lag and lethargy getting them processed. So somewhere in between the two. I looked at the City of Sydney. I think from memory it was 5 days. I thought that 5 working days, that's really a week. I thought that was pretty good. The second part there, where an email sent to external stakeholders should be a copy to the relevant council, that's a administrative, quite an administrative burden to start doing that. But nonetheless, as I said, it's the decisions of councils, the policy of the council.
But you agree, don't you?
But it was defeated.
Increasing it beyond 2 ordinary days will alleviate some of the time pressure.
It wasn't an issue on the council in the period I was there from 12 to 14, and it wasn't an issue until the council elections in September when new councillors got elected. And new councillors, not just Councillor Rodricks, who's an old hand at this because he's been a councillor before, very enthusiastic when they first start. Not saying they peter out later on, but they will send a lot of requests in to respond to their commitment to the community in their election. So, whether it be Peter's big on waste cleaning up in the city, other councillors like Councillor Hale big on shopping trolleys, dogs off leashes in parks, that, you'll get quite a bit of that at the beginning, and it'll start to even out a bit as they get settled in.
And to your knowledge, has that policy been amended and put forward, the new policy been put forward by council?
Well, you can tell me, is that saying it's declared carried?
The motion was declared carried,
Okay.
and to your knowledge, has a revised policy come back?
I can't answer that question, but because I left not long after that.
Yes, just going to a slightly different topic now. You gave some evidence in relation to a request by Councillor Rodricks to make a social media post.
Yes.
I can take you back to the email chain, which is INQ.005.001.0012. Yes, please. And if you can go to 0005 on that document, please. You can see here is the email from Mr. Councillor Rodricks, starts on the page before, to council support.
Yep.
And scrolling up, please, to the bottom of page 3. See, the response comes back and it's made its way through you, and you are responsible for responding to Councillor Rodricks in relation to that request. And in your response, if you can go to page 0004, please, you refer to the media policy, the current version.
Yes, that's correct.
And you refer there to certain sections of the media response policy, including the roles and responsibilities.
Yes.
And it says there, the mayor is the official spokesperson. And in 4.1.7, the mayor may nominate another councillor to act as an official council spokesperson for an issue. You see that?
Yes, and that's in the Act as well.
But you don't, in your email here, give an indication to Councillor Rodricks as to whether or not his request to do a social media post is approved or not approved, do you?
I probably need to see the whole email again. This was a complaint that we had declined posted, I think, and I was responding to that complaint.
If you go down to the email, the very bottom one from Councillor
Yeah,
Ristevski,
that's
it's
it.
on page 5, you can see there, I've seen multiple posts. In the next paragraphs, please get back to me if that opportunity is available and if not, why?
Yeah, okay, and it's,
And then in your email, which starts at the bottom of page 003, dear councillor, and please take your time to read the whole email.
yeah, well, and it's pointing out that the mayor spokesperson can delegate, and that's why those two councillors were on video. I wasn't aware what he wanted to post either, by the way, as you know, later on, that email wasn't sent to me.
But you don't answer the question as to whether or not he can do a post.
Well, it's, that's an interpretation you could have. My interpretation of what we have said there as a policy says the mayor delegates it, so he better go to the mayor.
And you gave evidence on the last occasion that if someone was unhappy with a response from a director or wanted to provide additional information, that should be elevated to the CEO.
Yes, yes.
And if we continue in the email chain,
He does elevate it, CEO.
and he does elevate it to the CEO.
He adds new information to it too.
He does. And if you can go to page 002,
But he also...
Just wait for the question.
Oh, okay.
Wait for the question.
Thank you, Commissioner.
so scroll down a little bit, please, to the email from Mr. Breton. And Mr. Breton responds, which says, you know, I referred your application to the mayor. And you can see that to then I've been advised at this date that the mayor does not agree to the proposition.
Okay.
Noting the mayor is not obliged to provide me with the rationale and has preserved his reasons. You see that?
Yes.
And you can see Mr. Ristevski responds, does the mayor determine what is on the council Facebook page? Do you know the answer to that question? Does the mayor determine what is posted on the council Facebook page?
He doesn't determine what's on the Facebook page. He contributes to it as a spokesperson. The media manager and maybe one other media staff person would have a bi-weekly meeting. If he couldn't make it, it would be with his office. But and just go over the sort of opportunities coming up over the next few weeks in terms of media opportunities, social media opportunities. But 80%, 90% of what goes on council's website, social media pages are operational. You know, but the markets on Sunday at Powerhouse, this photo exhibition, this library show, that type of stuff has nothing to do with the mayor.
That was my next question, which you've answered it, and that's because what goes on to the council Facebook page is largely operational.
Largely,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And so you would agree then, wouldn't you, that it's actually not appropriate for the mayor to be the sole person that can decide what gets posted onto council's Facebook page? You agree with that?
He doesn't decide.
But if he was the sole person, you would agree that that would be entirely inappropriate?
Well, we'd consult with his office or with him about opportunities in the coming weeks, you know, but he doesn't decide it. I mean, we would sit down and look at resolutions of the council and see what we need to post about that, you know, policies, changes in policies. So we'd post stuff from the state government. We were the Liverpool Council's social media pages have the highest penetration to the community of any social media in Liverpool, and the demise of the local paper meant the state government was turning us to put COVID messages out, vaccination messages out, warnings about floods and things on our social media. So it's an important tool of communication.
So accepting that it's an important tool of communication, and you've said that it's operational, and you've said that the mayor doesn't decide what does and doesn't go onto the council's Facebook page, yet when Councillor Peter Ristevski sent his request to make a post on the council's Facebook page, he was told that it was at the mayor's discretion and the mayor had refused to allow him to post.
That's a policy in terms of spokesperson for council.
And so you consider there to be a difference between councillors posting on the Facebook page because they're, in your view, they're acting as a spokesperson for council?
Well, they're the elected body, so you treat the elected body, the policy applies to.
All right. And you agree, don't you, that posts on council's social media page should not be politically aligned?
Well, yes, I do agree with that.
And posts on a council social media page shouldn't be used to campaign or raise the profile of certain councillors?
I agree with that, and it's as much as possible avoided. You know, the profiling the mayor opening a childcare centre, you know, he's been invited to do it, and we send someone along to that. That could be interpreted that way, but that's him as the mayor, properly elected mayor, a spokesperson for council.
And you agree that there is a risk that if the mayor is the person who decides whether councillors can make a post on council's Facebook page, that there is a risk that the mayor might refuse that request based on personality disputes.
Well, it's not just the social media, it's like a media release or media statement, or going out and talking to the press. I mean, councillor,
I understand that, but this particular policy,
He hadn't.
please continue.
thank you, I lost my thought. I mean, council, it's a broader policy than just social media, because we've combined the two under, but the, you know, a councillor, I was a councillor, can go to the media direct and put a contrary position on any matter, you know, not personally attack someone. That's totally outside the policy, but you can challenge the position of the mayor. So it doesn't preclude that.
Approaching the media generally.
Yeah, yeah.
But in terms of if you
I
can,
mean, if the mayor wants to attack another councillor, he can't use any of our social media or council's resources, but he can certainly bring up a journalist, and he's done it. Every mayor's done it, and have and even send an email himself saying this is wrong, this person's wrong. But we won't go near it with a barge pole. And I've had occasion where I've had to cut that off.
and now focusing for a minute just on council's Facebook page,
Mm-hmm.
you agree, don't you, that if the mayor is the one to decide if a councillor can post on council's Facebook page, there is a risk that that request might be refused based on personality disputes. Do you agree that that risk is there?
I can't answer that on behalf of the mayor, but I mean, the policy is that the mayor is a spokesperson, and he can delegate, and that's in the Act. And so that's a situation, and it's a policy that's adopted by council that we apply.
I understand all of that, but focusing on my question, do you agree that there is a risk that if the mayor doesn't like someone, there is a risk that the request to make a social media post on council's Facebook page may be unfairly rejected?
Been put a number of times, and also in fairness, reference to the policy is about the extent to which a council can act as official council spokesperson. So really it's a question about the exercise of the power of the mayor to delegate, and in my submission the question's not being fairly put by reference.
Operator, could I just have that passage of the email that shows the policy?
There it is.
I think that's right, Ms. Hamilton-Gill. I think you have this of assistance to me. You might just need to clarify whether what your proposition is whether it's related to making a statement on behalf of council or some other form of statement on the council's webpage.
I'll go about it this way. So the mayor is the official spokesperson, and that's in accordance with the policy.
Mm-hmm.
And the mayor can decide to delegate to another councillor to act as an official council spokesperson for an issue, event or topic.
Mm-hmm.
And if a councillor wished to make a post that went onto council's Facebook page, the policy responds because that councillor would be acting then as an official council spokesperson in relation to that post.
Mm.
And in delegating the ability to a councillor to make that post, that ability might be impacted by a mayor's personal like or dislike of an
I
of an
can't comment on
individual.
that. I mean, the mayor's motivations are the mayor's motivations. I can't answer that. He'll be in the witness box soon.
That's all. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Ms. Richardson.
Mr. Mallard, my name is Ms. Richardson. I'm counsel representing Mayor Manoon.
Okay.
You were asked some questions earlier this afternoon about the appointment of Betty Bustani to the role of senior advisor. Do you recall those
Yes.
questions?
Yes, indeed.
I'm just going to ask you a few questions about that. So we've seen documents. This is not a memory test, but the documents reveal these dates that I think you were appointed as the Director of City Futures effective on about the 21st of August 2023. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, it does. Yes.
That's the about approximate
Mm.
time frame. And so you gave evidence that your previous position as senior advisor was vacant Is it vacant from that point forward, or a bit more than the 21st of August? When did you vacate the senior advisor role?
Oh, literally, I think on the Friday and started as director on the Monday. But I moved Mimi Curran into the position temporarily to trial that out.
And
So
was
that was that period between that and then Betty.
and was the position for the senior advisor role advertised after you had vacated it?
As far as I'm aware, no, but I could be corrected. But as far as I'm aware, it was not advertised.
But the position was vacant, was it?
When I left it,
Yes.
yes, but as I said, Ms. Curran, who was sort of freelancing a bit in the organisation, she applied to be a director, as I said earlier today, and John Ajaka felt she had a lot to contribute to the organisation. She didn't get the director job, but he wanted to try and utilise her skills. So she was sitting in my directorate, and I moved her into advising, advisor to the CEO, but in that mayor's breakout office that I talked about before, the breakout meeting room, to do that.
How long was she doing that role on a temporary basis?
Well, I would say it would be up until the Betty Bastani opportunity came along.
So was it the case?
Or could have been a bit soon earlier. I moved her across then. I had a vacancy in the manager of communications, marketing, and then I had some difficulties in that area in terms of personnel and problems. And I felt that Mimi would be a good circuit breaker to get that back under control. I inherited this. And so I moved her across to there. So there was a vacancy then in that role.
And was it the case that Mr. Ajaka, did he express a view to you that Ms. Curran wasn't working out in that role, in the senior advisor role? What happened there?
To be frank, the mayor just isolated her and stopped communicating with her. And so there's a breakdown in the communication. So it was clear as anything that wasn't working out. And as I said, it's a personality and perhaps a management style issue.
And in relation to, you gave some evidence about a day you were called into a meeting or a room where Ms. Bastani was there with Mr. Ajaka,
Mayor's
Mayor Manoon,
Mayor's office, yeah.
in the mayor's office.
Yeah, in Moore Street.
And so it's the case, isn't it, that when you were called into that room, Mr. Ajaka introduced you to Betty Bastani, is that
Yes, yes.
And
he only just met her himself.
right.
Yeah.
But did he introduce her to someone who was potentially looking for a new role at the council?
Yes, yeah. The role being the advisor, senior advisor. But she as far as I'm aware, was unaware of that position. It had been raised at lunch with the mayor. And my understanding is that was totally a left of field idea that came up when they were just catching up.
Well, I want to suggest to you that when you went into the meeting or into the room where Mayor Manoon was with Mr. Ajaka, that Mr. Ajaka introduced Ms. Bastani to you as someone who was generally available to opportunities within the council, but not specific to the senior advisor role. Do you recall that?
He could have couched it that way, but it was pretty reading between the lines what that was about. Yeah. But I mean, I left that room with instruction to make it happen.
Well, I want to suggest to you that that Mr. Ajaka introduced to you as someone who was potentially interested in a role in council, not specific to the senior advisor role. Do you accept that that's...
It's not my recollection.
Yeah. And that after that, Ms. Bastani then went and spoke with you and Mr. Ajaka immediately after that first meeting in the absence of Mr Manoon about various roles in council?
I don't recall that. I recall meeting with her afterwards. I don't recall John being there.
Or when you were
Because
meeting with her, did you discuss various roles in council with her?
we went straight to the senior policy advisor and started talking dollars,
It started talking what?
money.
Okay. And then we've seen that the inquiry has a document before it of you writing on the 6th of September 2023 where you recommend Ms Bustani as a senior advisor.
Mhm.
And I'll just pull those up.
OLG.001.001.1055.
Thank you. I'm grateful. So was that the letter that's ended in .9340, Commissioner? Is that the one you read out?
I have a different, this is the memo from Mr. Mallard to Mr. Ajaka.
I'll go.
Is that the, or you, sorry,
No,
I might have taken the wrong
no,
document.
it is correct. You took me to a different document, but your document was the one I was supposed to do. If that could be brought up, please.
Is that on the live stream?
Does cover salary, I think.
I think it's gone up before, but we can.
Sorry, I've got a version of that with different numbers on it, but it's the same. I think that is also been ascribed the number LCC.010.009.9343.
Thank you.
But it's the same one by the looks of it. Do you see there, Mr. Mallard, you authored that memo to Mr. Ajaka, and the subject is engagement of Betty Bustani on a 12-month temporary contract?
As senior advisor, yes.
Yes. And then you set out the background that you'd been appointed to Director of City Futures effective 21 August. That was the date I just gave you. And then you set out that she has a background in business management, governance, corporate advisory work, and her CV is attached. So do I take it as part of making that recommendation to Mr. Ajaka, you reviewed Ms. Bustani's CV
Yes.
and you formed the view that she was someone worthy of the recommendation of a 12-month temporary contract in the senior advisor position?
Yeah, I stand by that. I thought she was a good fit. And as I said earlier, in evidence of the skill set she had, what I thought would be very helpful in the organisation.
And could you assist the Commission with a description of what was it about her skill set that you felt met the requirements of that position?
Well, we went through this earlier today, but first of all, I was comfortable with the fact that she knew the mayor and that he had confidence in her, which the issue of being able to communicate with the mayor and having his trust, and that's not unique to a mayor. You know, any CEO has that sort of issues. So that was the first starting point, a similar starting point to what I had. The second starting point was that I don't mention there, it's in a CV that she was a lawyer and a legal mind, understanding legislation, understanding policies and legal instruments in that advisory role was very helpful. And the third one was that she was business consultant, had a corporate commercial property mind and commercial background, which I think that added into the role that was helpful too. Because the mayor is very, and the CEO too, John, very commercially minded about opportunities for the council.
And it's the case, isn't it, that when you made the recommendation that she be offered a 12-month temporary contract, that you were well aware that she had previously known to the mayor as a lawyer who had acted for him?
No, I didn't know that at that point. I knew she was a lawyer, obviously, therefore she may have acted for him in the past. I wasn't aware that she was involved with getting to the point of this defamation. That was when I found out that she was involved in that legal process at that time.
But you were aware that she was a lawyer that had previously acted for Mr. Manoon?
Yeah, it was no longer involved with him. I checked on that. No longer involved. Didn't represent him anymore or anything like that. There was quite, we're talking 10 or 15 years before, maybe 15 years earlier.
But you were aware that she'd had that connection to him before?
Yes.
And did Mr. Ajaka say words to you that made you understand that he also knew that Ms. Bastani had had
No, I think
that? Just wait for my question.
Needs former lawyer.
Sorry, did Mr. Ajaka also say words to you that caused you to believe that he also knew that Ms. Bastani had had a previous engagement with the mayor as a lawyer?
The mayor had gone to lunch with his former lawyer. That's how
Sorry.
he'd been at lunch with his former lawyer. That's how it was introduced to me when I walked into the room. So yeah, John was aware 15 years ago that she had been his lawyer. That was, it was pretty clear to me.
And to your understanding, was it also clear to Mr. Ajaka at the point at which consideration was being made to offer her this contract that she had previously been his lawyer?
From my memory, he acknowledged that in that introductory gathering that she had been his lawyer in the past.
And so when you made the recommendation to Mr. Ajaka that he offer her the temporary 12-month contract, did you turn your mind to the fact that she had previously provided legal services to him as a lawyer, and you formed the view that it was still appropriate for you to make that recommendation in respect of her?
I mean, we had a conversation, Ms. Bastani and I, about that relationship, and like it was 15 years old, and they were just acquaintances, and she's a member of the Liverpool community, and she's just looking for a sea change in terms of her career. So I didn't see a problem with that. She wasn't, as far as I was aware, because some things came out later on about some secondary work that we had to sort out, but it didn't involve the mayor, that she was no longer a practicing solicitor. So that's why I thought it'd be a good fit. I didn't see a conflict of interest for 15 years earlier.
And
so I just say it didn't become an issue until we had the defamation and the subpoenas come in that she was involved right then in what was alleged to be defamation.
but that happened later, is that correct?
Yeah, that's when it became a bit of an issue for us, how we manage that.
And did you also have an understanding at the time as to whether Ms. Bastani had any affiliations to a particular political party?
No.
So she didn't have any, or you didn't have any understanding about it?
Well, I take a strong view that I don't ask that question. It's illegal under the Federal Workplace Act, but and I think it's prejudicial. So she's green or whatever. It wasn't an issue for me. If the mayor, in that circumstance, the mayor had confidence in her, and I was prepared to accept that, move forward. And Mr. Ajaka clearly had confidence in her.
But it's the case, isn't it, that you didn't have any knowledge that she was connected to the Liberal Party? Is that correct?
Well, I don't know that she's to this day, and I was a very senior member of the party in my day. I never came by her at all in anything, but and I never saw being at any political functions or anything. So, and I know that was put round. There was a rumour put round about it, but I certainly no evidence to me. Oh, you could prove me wrong, but it wasn't didn't blast it out in a CV.
And are you aware in relation to Ms. Bastani that she was then later assessed for her appropriateness for the role in terms of being appointed to it on a permanent basis?
She went through a recruitment process, a competitive recruitment process, which was done externally.
That was an external process?
Yes.
And can you assist the Commissioner with your understanding as to what the outcome of that process was?
It was kept at fairly arm's length for me. I was the director originally because she reported to me, assigned the job of recruiting permanently someone with that position, and because of, I use the word heat, for want of a bit of heat being applied to that position and that person, the CEO and I guess through Mr. Craig Napick in HR, made a decision to independently, externally recruit. And I understand it was quite vigorous, and the outcome of that was her being appointed.
When you say externally, what should I take from that?
They contracted a firm, probably from their panel, so it's not my area, it's a HR area.
Yes.
To recruit that position.
An like a recruitment
Recruitment firm, yeah. I don't know who it was.
That's right.
But I know Mercer did an assessment of the salary, which to arrive at a salary package.
There
Yeah.
was a benchmarking done of it
Yes, correct, yes. I was interviewed for that.
for the permanent role,
No, I was interviewed for the
the benchmarking, but that was
job description of that role since I had done it 2 times in the past. You know,
that was for the purpose of the competitive
Salary.
recruitment process.
that's correct.
And the salary was benchmarked at that.
Yes, by Mercer, independent company.
And your understanding is the benchmarking by Mercer, the outcome of that was that salary she had already been given was in line with benchmarks?
Correct.
And that as a result of that external competitive process, she was successful in that process?
Yes, but I didn't see any documentation around that. Even though it reports to me, that's all done by Craig Nappy. And Jason, I guess, had a role in oversighting that, but I was confident that that had occurred.
And Craig Nappy was the chief people officer at
That's
the time.
correct.
And are you aware that she was then, as a result of that process, offered that a senior advisor position on a permanent basis at about the 12-month mark when the temporary contract
Yes,
was set?
and that reported to me right until when I left.
So she reported to you after that?
Yes, that position reported to the Director of City Future. Yes.
And are you aware that her remuneration package actually increased slightly from the amount she'd been offered under the temporary contract? Are you aware?
Setting aside industry increases and all that sort of stuff that happens every year or two, I vaguely recollect there was some toing and froing around, is this figure gross? Does it include super? Does it include a car allowance? Yes or no? And that may be where you're picking up a slight change in that situation because we had to negotiate that fine detail.
So the document for the transcript with the permanent offer is LCC.010.009.9345.
Sorry, Ms. Richardson, I wasn't quick enough. Could you just give
Sorry.
that to me again?
LCC.010.009.9345.
Thank
That's
you.
dated 18 September 2024. It's a letter from Craig Nappy, Chief People Officer, to Ms. Bustani, offering her the full-time permanent appointment to that position as a result of the external competitive process. Mr. Mallard, when you gave evidence a week or so ago, you gave some evidence about, I think it was a governance meeting when the budget was first presented, and you gave evidence about the Mayor's reaction to the budget being in deficit. Do you recall that?
Draft
Peter?
budget, yes.
The draft budget. Do you recall that?
Yes.
I want to suggest to you that at no point did Mr. Manoon was, in his body language, visibly annoyed with what had been said in relation to the budget being deficit, but he did not storm out.
Well, that's not my recollection. I was sitting diagonally opposite the Mayor. I could see, I've known him for a long time, 20 or 30, more than 20 years. I could see his body language was like, he was clearly already angry. My recollection is he picked up and dropped the bundle of documents and then left. Because I think I thought it was a bit immature, frankly, because we had the leadership of the council there and councillors, all the directors and various support staff, budget and finance, and just walk out like that was, I thought, not to the good standard I expect.
Well, I want to suggest to you that he did not leave the meeting or storm out of the meeting, that he was visibly annoyed, but he stayed in the meeting. Do you accept that?
No, the meeting was aborted. That's my recollection, that we aborted the meeting.
Well, I wanted to suggest to you, did you hear the CEO, Mr. Breton, say to Mr. Manoon that to stay in the meeting and that the meeting would go on?
Well, he wasn't the CEO, he was a director. The CEO was John Ajaka. Mr. Ajaka was the CEO.
Sorry.
That's all right. So Mr. Breton
was in the meeting.
Look, I think all the directors there, though Mr. Breton often came in via, on the screen because he was in operations like the depot. But I think they were all there.
And I want to suggest to you that he didn't hit the papers down hard on his desk, but he dropped the papers down as part of being annoyed. Would you accept that?
That's a semantic argument. They went bang down on the table, a big board table, and I know Ned, that was a message that he was very angry.
Were you aware that the Mayor had campaigned on a balanced budget?
I mentioned that in my evidence at the last hearing. It's
Just
in the
the-
DNA of Liberals to have budget balance, and Ned had slogan which he stole from Canberra, which was back in the black.
Right. And so having a balanced budget was something he had campaigned on,
Yes.
correct? And it was a matter of an important policy objective that he was seeking.
I acknowledge that what was happening was not consistent with his policy. This was a first cut of a budget process. I gave evidence the last hearing about John Ajaka's approach, which was think big, come forward with ideas that your team want that align with the strategic plans of the council and the 100-day plan and all that sort of stuff. And he wanted the councillors to own the budget. So they make decisions about, we won't do this, we won't do that, and go through it that way rather than, and clearly what Ned wanted, Jason delivered to him, was all the hard work done by the organisation to give so the council made decisions in this kind of budget about what was cut out. It was all done by directors and meetings.
Just taking you forward to the council meeting of the 26th of April last year, which was the meeting at which the police were called and so on.
Yes.
You recall that?
How could I forget it?
The memorable. Did you see the protest outside and the types of placards that they were holding at the time?
Down on the in the courtyard.
Yes.
I saw them, but I couldn't read the placards.
Could you hear people chanting?
I could hear chanting, but I couldn't hear what they were saying, and I'm giving you answers. We're up 2 floors up, and glass that's not opened, and the western sun was hitting the glass. So, but I could see them out there. There were 1 or 2 placards. It wasn't a lot. But obviously, relayed to me in the inside was staff coming up saying, "This is what they're saying. This is what's going on." Yeah.
And just in terms of the timeline, the council meeting was on the Wednesday, the 26th. Sorry, on the 24th. I apologise.
Okay.
Were you aware that on the day before the council meeting, so that would be the 23rd of April, that Stephen Donnelly of the USU union had gone on Ray Hadley? Were you aware of that at the time?
No, I don't listen to Ray Hadley.
Was it reported to you at the council that that had happened? That he'd gone on the radio?
And is this? It would help my memory if you tell me what he was talking about on the radio.
Well, he went on the radio and said to Ray Hadley that they, in effect, had it on good authority that there were going to be
Job losses.
150 job losses at Liverpool City Council, and that there might be a vote about it the following day at the council meeting.
Okay, so I vaguely recollect that. I mean, I've got the media team, media monitoring. So
Sorry,
I had the
slow down a
media.
bit.
I had the media team and media monitoring. So I would have been made aware of the interview and those comments, and my media people probably would have fed it through to the CEO and to the mayor. So they're aware of it. That's just a normal process.
So could I just stop you there? With that type of thing, with media monitoring, would you be told about an interview like that relatively promptly on the same day?
Yes.
Is that even more likely, given I want to suggest to you that it was a pretty controversial interview in terms of a topic that would be of significant interest to council workers?
Yes, and more likely, and would be that I'd be like the 3rd or 4th person to know about this, because the media guy, the communications officer that we have had, would probably flick it to the mayor straight away and to the CEO straight away to alert them to it, so that they're aware, and then to me, bring me into the loop.
And were you aware that the then CEO, Mr. Ajaka, had actually met with a senior union person the day before on the Monday?
No, I wasn't aware, but I certainly was aware that one of the KPIs that John set himself when he became CEO was to establish peace with the unions. They were incredibly hostile when John got there, and there's a couple of hundred industrial relations, hearings going on about different matters. And John, as it's been mentioned in the inquiry already, joined the union to be in the tent. In fact, he asked me to join the union, and I did, to get in the tent to calm the whole situation down, because he.
Just asking you a specific question.
Yeah.
On the Monday.
So to answer your question then, I didn't know about that meeting, but it wouldn't surprise me that Mr. Jarka had meetings. He regularly met with Sandy, I can't think of her surname now.
Morgan.
Sam Morgan.
It's Morgan, Morthern, is
Yes,
that correct?
yes. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to have a meeting with the unions.
Were you told anything about whether or not Mr. Ajaka had met with Sandy Morthern
No.
on that Monday?
No.
Those are my questions.
Parish?
No, thank
Just in answer to one of Ms. Richardson's questions about the awareness that Ms. Bustani had been Councillor Manoon's lawyer, was that formally recorded anywhere as part of the recruitment process, in a form or in a file, to your knowledge? You may not know, but.
I can't even tell you if it was actually identified, that position in her CV. I don't think it was. And so I don't think it was formally recorded. Being it was 15 years earlier, she hadn't represented him at all since that period. I just didn't feel it was a
That's not
conflict.
the import of my question.
No.
It's just whether it was or wasn't, and
No.
to your understanding. And
No.
I understand your answer is you don't think so, but you're not sure.
No, I don't think it was.
So your recollection of that meeting is that Ms. Butani was introduced as the mayor's former lawyer, but acted as his lawyer about 15 years previous.
It was clear it was back when he had his business, like the recruitment, training business where he was very successful. That was before he was elected to council.
You said something. I'm just trying to find my notes, but if I can paraphrase my understanding, is given that information, you weren't troubled or concerned, but a concern did arise when the defamation proceedings were commenced. They were the defamation proceedings commenced by Mr. Manoon against Mr. Ristevski.
That's correct.
And why did you become concerned about Miss Butani's role in that, or her role as a lawyer? Or
Okay. Miss Bustani as a direct report, contacted me and said we need to have a discussion, and then outlined the defamation proceedings. I think I was already aware the mayor was going to pursue defamation proceedings against Peter Ristevski. He was no longer a councillor at that time. That's when he was a civilian. But she outlined that
Mr. Ristevski wasn't on council.
no,
Yes.
during the beginning of the defamation, and she indicated to me that she was a lawyer for him back at that sale of his business I just mentioned before he was a councillor, and acted for him in that sale. And she had been, I think subpoenaed or required to give evidence in the defamation. That concerned me, and I think from memory, John Ajaka was in his office, and I was able to go straight down there, and I said, I'll get back to you, but this could be a problem. The problem I perceived was that she's going to be dragged into a high-profile defamation case, and she's employed by the council as an advisor, reporting to me, that will create conflicts of interest for her in regards to she's giving evidence for or against the mayor, and reputational damage for the council. She was still on contract at that time. So I went down and saw John. John Ajara, of course, is a highly experienced lawyer as well as a parliamentarian, and he immediately said, "This is a problem." I said, if they go forward with the subpoena, I think we might have to part company with her, because we had a clause in that 12-month contract that you can terminate within 4 weeks or something. So you weren't locked into paying for 12 months. Because of that, the two things there, the conflict of interest for her and the potential reputational harm to the council. And because she was on contract, that was an option that was viable for us. And then either that day or the next day, I got Betty in with a meeting with John, which was quite heated about that situation. Things came to pass. I don't think she was actually dragged into the case at all, other than just in the documentation.
When you said the meeting with you, Mr. Ajaka and Ms. Bustani became heated, what do you mean?
Mr. Ajaka started pacing up and down in the office. He often thought with his hands when he walked around, trying to work out the pros and cons of what we're at. And he agreed with me, reluctantly, my reluctant view, that there's potential. And we just put on notice that we may have to suspend you, or you may have to leave us if this becomes a case that you're dragged into. John was quite critical of, they didn't get on very well, I've got to say, Betty and John.
They didn't?
No, not very. But John was critical of Miss Bustani because he used to say to her, stop thinking like you're Ned's lawyer, all right? You're not defending or representing Ned, you're in the organisation. And and that was always a challenge. But, I mean, I had a lot of time for Betty, so she was quite skilled in what she did. But that's the situation.
You described the meeting as heated. When you say heated, did people become angry or upset?
No, John, heated might be an exaggeration, but Mr. Ajaka was pacing up and down, and he talks like that. This is a problem. We need to resolve it. He talks with his hands, when Ms. Bustani would try to defend herself, he'd cut her off and say, no, look, you got to understand, this is a problem for us. Yeah.
The conversation or that Mr. Ajaka would say to Ms. Bustani, you're not acting as Ned's lawyer, was that said on previous occasions?
Yes.
And in different contexts?
Yes.
What were some of those?
Oh. If the view was that the mayor had attended a meeting that he shouldn't have attended, she would be defensive of that, and that's just a broad example, or in meetings when there were some challenging discussions going on, she would side with the mayor every time. But that's yeah.
You also mentioned secondary employment.
Yes, all staff, or maybe all senior staff, I'm not sure it's all staff, but all staff are required to get approval from their direct report for secondary employment. And so it could be all staff, I'm not certain, but certainly managers, and there's a form you fill in, lands on my desk if it was and you would check that to see, well, what are you doing, and is there any conflict with the council? And if there is, if you might approve it, you might indicate you can do no work in Liverpool local government area or something like that. And it included, for sake of caution, family trusts and voluntary positions on boards, all that. And then the Auditor General does audit of I think it's Auditor General of secondary employment by senior staff. And I don't know if it does it for every council, but we got picked out. And across all of our desks, not just Betty to me, others got it too. I've got a couple of other managers that had the same issue, mainly family trusts or family superannuation funds. They hadn't declared them. So we had to do some mopping up. Ms. Bastani had, I think, from memory, a family super fund or something, and she was also a advisor to a law firm or some, in some role. And I approved those with the usual conditions around prohibition on any engagement with Liverpool local council, Liverpool council. And then they get recorded. But it wasn't unique to her. I think 3 in my directorate were picked up by that audit.
Can you excuse me? Yes, there are the questions.
Mr. Mallard, that completes your evidence. I'm being asked not to release any witnesses formally, but as soon as I'm told that you can be released from your summons, that will be communicated to you. And, oh, hang on. No, I can continue.
Sorry,
That's all right.
Mr. Mallard isn't being excused.
No one's being, I was just in the throes of explaining to him that although he can go home today, he's not formally excused from his summons. When that can happen, that'll be communicated to you.
All right.
If we need to trouble you again, that will be communicated to you and those representing you as well. But I'm very grateful for your attendance and your assistance over these 2 days, and you're free to go for the moment.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Is there anything else to do this afternoon? 10 o'clock tomorrow?
Yes.
Until 10 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you.